Chapter 580. Chu Tian and Jean Luo left the transport point. Jean Luo finally saw the legendary Miracle City. Miracle City's bustling scene was not inferior to West Sea City's. The most important thing was that although Miracle City and West Sea City were both trade centers, West Sea City relied on shipping and Miracle City relied on spatial trade, so they couldn't be compared. Jean Luo had studied the information on Miracle City and she knew that Miracle City's spatial trade far surpassed any other trade in the world. Miracle City's Miracle Shopping Center had been built by Meng Qingwu's group and had covered most of the cities in the Forest of Chaos. Whether it was goods or materials, they were all instantly transported. Miracle City didn't need large caravans or large fleets, they just needed to build space warehouses and use spatial logistics to connect everything, making spatial distance meaningless. Whether it was efficiency or cost, it was all lowered to the minimum. Starting from Vivian's first space warehouse in southern Xia, Miracle Commerce already had close to 1,000 space warehouses and it was still increasing by 3-5 every day. 70% of them were exclusive to Miracle Commerce and the remaining 30% were open warehouses. Some were given to their partners and some were open to the public. Under the command of Miracle Commerce's production minister Meng Yingying, Miracle Commerce's industry was already entering the 3.0 era. The first two generations were normal factories and intelligent factories. Now that Miracle Commerce's normal factories were gradually being eliminated, intelligent factories were becoming more and more. The third generation of factories was the spatial intelligent factories. Spatial intelligent factories had many advantages over normal intelligent factories. For example, some of Miracle Commerce's main production bases had already reached the spatial intelligent industrial level. The entire factory no longer needed to transport materials because the factory's warehouse was a space warehouse. Ores were mined, refined, and processed before finally being sent to the terminal factory to be turned into products with other materials. The industrial waste disposal and the transport of the finished products were all integrated into the production chain. The entire process was controlled by the space warehouse and smart brain. This was where Miracle Commerce was strong. West Sea City. This kind of shipping trade was not only slow, risky, and used up a lot of resources. Compared to space transportation, its only advantage was that it could transport living things. Moreover, each transport was very large, so it was especially suitable for medium to short distance transportation, or transporting all kinds of livestock and cheap raw materials. With Miracle Bank in the center and the Forest Council established here, the Forest of Chaos's business center, financial center, and political center would always be Miracle City. Chu Tian and Jean Luo had a bit of conflict, but it wasn't worth mentioning. Jean Luo secretly let him go and Chu Tian was very grateful to her for this. Therefore, Chu Tian introduced Jean Luo to the different areas of Miracle City while arranging her life. You don't need to return to West Sea City for now. There are mountains and rivers here, there's nothing lacking. I guarantee your life will be richer than in West Sea City. Miracle City's incredible scenes filled Jean Luo's eyes. This city is even more mysterious than I imagined. Of course, don't you know whose city this is? Chu Tian said to Jean Luo, if you want to live in Miracle City, you need to prepare a few things. For example, a citizen card, a cell phone, and etc. Jean Luo had a blank look. Citizen card? This is the identification of a Miracle City citizen. The information of each Miracle City citizen is stored in the warehouse and can't be forged with spiritual energy, therefore each person has their own uniqueness. The citizen card has many benefits, like setting up a Miracle Bank account. In the future, when you go to Miracle City or even the other cities of the Forest Alliance, you won't need to bring any source stones. You just need your own citizen card. Jean Luo nodded. That was just too convenient. This cell phone is a communication tool and it is a necessary item for people with a bit of status in Miracle City. The functions of the cell phone are already very complete and it can connect to Miracle City's information network. You can use the cell phone to look up the latest products from the Miracle Shopping Center and make purchases. Miracle City's cell phones had been developed for a long time and were now very mature. The current newest cell phones not only use the Yunsec's latest research, making it faster, stronger storage, and better communication, it also had the elves operating system, allowing more and more functions to be developed. Chu Tian brought Jean Luo in front of the young miss and first explained the situation to the young miss. The young miss was very surprised by Jean Luo's identity, but she could feel Jean Luo's value. First, Jean Luo was the Deep Blue Empire's princess, and now that she was in Miracle City, it would restrict West Sea City. This was a very important person. This is Princess Jean Luo's first time in Miracle City, naturally we have to properly entertain her. The young miss found Vivian and said to her, "You've worked hard building the Purgatory World's space fortress, so I'll give you a long vacation. You can accompany Princess Jean Luo and play around." Vivian liked to play and this kind of good job fell into her hands. Naturally she was overjoyed. "Big sister Jean Luo, come with me. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Miracle City." The two of them left the city lord's castle. The young miss revealed a fierce expression as she stared at Chu Tian. "I told you to go to West Sea City and you brought back a mermaid princess." Chu Tian cried out his innocence. "Young miss, this was purely an accident. Alright, let's not talk about this anymore. With City Lord Bo Sha's promise and the Deep Blue Princess Jean Luo in Miracle City, there's no need to worry about the threat of the Western Sea race for now." Meng Qinggu looked much more relaxed. After all the stone in her heart had been lifted, the Forest Alliance can focus on the subterranean world and the Purgatory world. Without any worries, with the four giants working together, no matter how strong the subterranean world is, they won't be able to topple the Forest Alliance. There was no need to doubt this. Even if the subterranean world's spirit insects can't topple the Forest Alliance, the insects buried deep underground can still cause endless trouble for the Forest Alliance. Chu Tian suddenly paused when he said this. "I don't want the insects to wreak havoc in our territory, so I suggest we completely eradicate this threat. Only like this can the Forest Alliance smoothly develop." Completely eradicate? It wasn't that Meng Qinggu hadn't thought of this problem before, it's too difficult. The subterranean world is far from the surface and our army can't go down at all, so we can only passively defend. That's not certain, we should make a space gate. Meng Qinggu's face suddenly changed when she heard this. Meng Qinggu had already heard Chu Tian talk about this space gate before. The space gate was similar to a transport tower, but the transport tower was a transport tool for a single person and the space gate was a transport tool for a group. The former was simple to make and had a low cost, but the latter was complex and had a large cost. A space gate transport array would consume at least 100 eyes of the star. Meng Qinggu revealed a pained expression. "You should know that even if we use all the eyes of the star in our storage, we can barely make a single set. If these eyes of the star are used to make transport towers, it would be a large benefit to our Forest Alliance." Chu Tian said with a faint smile, "As long as we can take care of the thorn in our side, what is this small price? Our technology is becoming more and more advanced, we can also mass-produce eyes of the star in the future." Meng Qinggu was in a bit of disbelief. Eyes of the star can only be found and not sought, how can we mass-produce them? Chu Tian laughed. Young miss, you also have times when you're not smart." Meng Qinggu fiercely pinched him and anxiously asked, "Quickly say it, how do we do it?" The eyes of the star were too useful to Miracle Commerce. Right now Miracle Commerce had very limited ways to obtain eyes of the star, they could only find them in ruins or buy them from various races at a high price. However, they were still lacking in quantity and it wasn't enough to complete a large-scale plan. The transport tower's value to Miracle Commerce was too great. If Chu Tian really had a way to mass-produce eyes of the star, Miracle Commerce's influence would quickly charge out of the Forest of Chaos and spread to every corner of the continent, increasing their influence every day. Chu Tian did not keep them in suspense. Where do the eyes of the star come from? Isn't it just a meteor in the sky? The eyes of the star we found on the ground were all brought to the continent by meteors, so there are very few of them. As long as we have the ability, why don't we charge into outer space and open Miracle Commerce's outer space mine? Outer space mine. Outer space mine. Meng Qingwu's beautiful eyes instantly lit up. That's right, why didn't she think of it? Miracle Commerce didn't build an outer space mine before because they didn't have enough technology. Airships or demon beasts couldn't charge into outer space, but the situation was different now. Miracle Commerce's tools were becoming stronger and they could even build powerful airships. With a powerful engine and energy source, why couldn't they charge into outer space? Chu Tian revealed a faint smile. How about it, am I a genius? Save it. Meng Qingwu rolled her eyes at him and then said, only you have the ability to build the space gate and it's hard for me to divert my energy, so who should we find to manage this outer space project? Let Vivian be in charge and Jean Luo assist. Chu Tian had already thought of it. When they're done playing, you can give this task to them. With Vivian's personality, once she hears that she can fly into outer space, she will be excited like she's been injected with chicken blood. As for Jean Luo, let her see the abilities of our Miracle Commerce because West Sea City is not only important to the Forest Alliance, it is also very important to me. I've made an agreement with Ying to hold our wedding in West Sea City. It seems like you still have a conscience. Meng Qingwu's eyes flashed and she nodded. She looked at Chu Tian and said in a praising voice, you've done very well this time, actually being able to resist the temptation of the mermaid princess and not fall into West Sea City. I'll properly praise you in front of Ying. Look at these words. Chu Tian helplessly shrugged his shoulders. Chapter 581. The Space Gate was a large investment project. Just the eyes of the star alone was close to 100 and the spatial crystals were an astronomical number. Even with Miracle Commerce's current financial resources, creating a space gate required a large price. They even needed to borrow from several large banks and the four giants. But it was all worth it. Chu Tian personally appointed Meng Yingying as his assistant. It had been too long since she worked with Chu Tian, so Meng Yingying was excited like she was injected with chicken blood. She ran around every day, happily coordinating resources. It had to be said, Meng Yingying had grown quite a bit in the past 2-3 years. She had managed Miracle Commerce's production department for a long time, so she knew Miracle Commerce's resources and manpower like the back of her hand. At least she was clearer than a big boss like Chu Tian. The resources we need are being transferred from various places, it should be sent to the warehouse in 3 days. Chu Tian nodded, what about manpower? I've transferred 500 scholars from the Yun sect and 3,000 craftsmen from the Giant Mountain Range. Adding in Miracle City's local labor, I think it should be enough. Good job. Chu Tian gave full praise, let's start work immediately and finish it in 10 days. Chu Tian chose a suitable basin in Miracle City and built the space gate in the basin. Chu Tian worked with the Yun sect scholars to slowly carve out the space gate's blueprint. There were actually over 300 pages of paper and each page was given to the craftsmen, allowing them to start working on it. Miracle City began to build the space gate. On the other hand, Meng Qingwu was extremely busy. Blue Jade City has been attacked by the spirit insects, over 100,000 casualties. Stone Plain City is bad. The spirit insects suddenly attacked and the city's protective barrier has been destroyed, suffering heavy losses. Bramble Cloud City has been attacked by the spirit insects, losing large amounts of resources and losing several towns. The mines around Purple Silver City have been attacked and have stopped production. The city lord has sent a request to the Alliance for help. The Sea Race's retreat made the subterranean world furious and they immediately increased their attacks on the surface. These spirit insects moved in the complicated underground world and they could appear anywhere in the forest, making the Forest Alliance's cities suffer quite a bit. The wild sneak attacks of the subterranean world had a large effect on the Forest of Chaos. Even if the Forest Alliance had enough warriors and experts, they couldn't do anything against the subterranean world's spirit insects. Meng Qingwu was filled with worry as she looked at the battle reports. She knew that if this situation continued, the Alliance cities would suffer more and more losses. It would be hard for these cities to doubt joining the Alliance and it would threaten the stability of the Forest Alliance. Chu Tian's space gate could not be completed in such a short time. Now, he had to rely on Meng Qinggu to stabilize the situation. Reporting, there is news from the Great Zhou country. The Eagle ruler has suddenly sent 2 Eagle Kings to help the Blood Eagle King and 200,000 soldiers, preparing to attack the Great Zhou country. With the Great Zhou country's strength, they can't defend against such a strong force. The Eagle Burial Kingdom wanted to use the Great Zhou country to attack the Three Kingdom Alliance. Miracle Commerce had been spreading rumors to drive a wedge between the Blood Eagle King and the Eagle ruler, but it seemed like this trick had been seen through. These spirit beasts weren't fellows without brains. The Three Kingdoms weren't strong compared to the Forest Alliance, but that didn't mean the Three Kingdom Alliance was a dispensable existence. Not only did the Three Kingdoms have value, they also had a lot of value. Although the kingdoms weren't strong, they had a deep relationship with Miracle Commerce. They could use them to move the surrounding countries and expand Miracle Commerce's influence. Once the Kingdom Alliance collapsed, Miracle City's losses would be large. The Eagle Burial Kingdom was determined, hardening their heart to destroy the Three Kingdoms. This was something Miracle City would never allow. Meng Qinggu made her decision: the subterranean world is harassing us, so we'll harass them. We'll have Death Wing, Thunder's Fury, Burst Claw, and the Elven King attack their cities from the Purgatory world. Miracle Commerce's influence in the Purgatory world wasn't strong, but with the 4 giants suppressing them, the situation in the Purgatory world was stabilized. Not to mention the fact that the Purgatory world had a space fortress, this was something the other Purgatory powers couldn't break through no matter what. Now that ATU was left to stabilize the situation, the 4 giants could enter the subterranean world through the Purgatory world and attack the cities in Alexa's hands. This would restrain the subterranean world's energy to a certain degree. The Eagle Burial Kingdom's army has gathered, perhaps there will be a bloody battle. We should avoid a direct confrontation for now. Meng Qinggu made some measures to calm the injured cities. After suppressing these matters, she began to consider the matter of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. How is our research on the Wall Breaker? The Wall Breaker is a very complex missile. Because it is very hard to make and because of the scarcity of materials, we have only made 10 of them. We don't know the effect, we haven't tested it yet. Meng Qinggu didn't even think before saying, directly test it on the battlefield. The subordinates looked at each other in blank dismay. Battlefield? Meng Qinggu directly informed Nangong Yun to take out several fighter planes from Miracle Commerce's storage. These fighter planes were the same as the one Chu Tian took to West Sea City. They were all Miracle Commerce's newest and most advanced aircraft. They could reach 10 times the speed of sound at full speed, and even if they met a weak heaven domain expert, they could avoid them. Elder Sister Qinggu can be assured. Nangong Yun was very excited seeing that Meng Qinggu was preparing a mission for her. I will definitely blow the Eagle Burial Kingdom's army to pieces. No, your mission is not to deal with the Eagle Burial Kingdom's main army. Meng Qinggu shook her head. I've studied the Eagle Burial Kingdom's army structure. The Eagle Burial Kingdom's 5 Eagle Kings are the most elite army in the country. The Dark Eagle King's army has been defeated in the Warhound Plains, and the other 4 Eagle King's armies are in the Three Kingdoms. Then Elder Sister Qingwu's meaning is? The Eagle Burial Kingdom's main army has many elite flying units. Although our new fighter planes are very strong, it will be hard to break through their air blockade. Meng Qinggu gave a map to Nangong Yun. This is a map of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. I have already marked several important cities in the Eagle Burial Kingdom. These cities are the Eagle Burial Kingdom's supply and equipment centers. Your mission is to destroy them as fast as lightning. Nangong Yun's mind trembled. All right. The Eagle Burial Kingdom's most elite airships were in the Great Zhou country, and the other first-class airships were in the conquered areas. Wouldn't they only have second- or third-class troops left? Meng Qinggu said, there are quite a few Heaven's Punishment airships in the Three Kingdoms. Because the airships are slow, they can't be of any use in fighting the enemy, so I gathered them near the Eagle Burial Kingdom's territory. These airships can help you when the fighter planes attack. Meng Qinggu had already prepared this. If these airships fought with the Eagle King's army, they wouldn't be any different from a bunch of targets. The Eagle Burial Kingdom's air force was very strong. It was enough to intercept the bombs dropped by the airships in mid-air and send out demon beasts to destroy the airships. They didn't have this worry if they attacked the cities. On one hand, the cities didn't want the army to be vigilant, and on the other hand, the city's quick reaction force was relatively slow. The Eagle Burial Kingdom never would have thought that Meng Qinggu would have airships near their territory, preparing to attack the Eagle Burial Kingdom at any time. They didn't know that Miracle Commerce had already made powerful fighter planes. Nangong Yun chose her people and prepared to set off. This is the first real combat test of our Black Thunder fighter planes. Nangong Yun paced in front of everyone as she spoke. We have to fight beautifully and display our Miracle Commerce's strength, do you understand? Yes. Let's go. The 15 Black Thunder fighter planes were activated, flying out of Miracle City's airport and disappearing into the horizon. Nangong Yun personally piloted one of the black fighter planes and soon reached 10 times the speed limit. The fighter planes were all stable and there were no signs of any malfunctions. The Black Thunder fighter planes weren't too complicated, mainly relying on source energy matrices to move them. Therefore, there was enough space to install powerful engines, weapons, and energy sources, with 4 sets of backup energy sources. When the fighter planes flew to the Warhound plains, they had used up all of their energy sources. Nangong Yun stopped the fighter planes in the Warhound plains and took out new energy sources from the space warehouse to fill the fighter planes. Then it started again and filled with all kinds of weapons, flying into the Eagle Burial Kingdom's territory. The Eagle Burial Kingdom had the Heaven's Net, so their communication was smooth. This is Black Thunder 1. Nangong Yun called through the communication device, calling Heaven's Punishment 16. A slightly noisy voice came from the communication device. Heaven's Punishment 16 has received. We are already in the air above the target and can receive orders to bomb at any time. Nangong Yun asked, give me the target's information. The target Nangong Yun was in charge of was the largest city in the south of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. This was a large fortress with barracks, granaries, and equipment warehouses. It was built on a giant desolate cliff and had a strong protective barrier, as well as a strong air defense. As for the properties of the protective barrier, Miracle Commerce had already investigated it. They were getting closer and closer. Nangong Yun estimated that with their current speed, they would reach the target in at most 10 minutes. There were currently 4 Heaven's Punishment airships 15,000 meters above the fortress, so they could hit the target in around a minute. Pay attention to my orders. Nangong Yun was getting closer and closer to the fortress. When the fortress became bigger and bigger, she suddenly gave a loud order, begin bombing. Roger. Begin bombing. Before the airship bombs landed, Nangong Yun's fighter plane had already reached the fortress. At 10 times the speed of sound, even if the fighter plane was made to reduce friction and sound, it was still enough to cause a large movement. The fortress was immediately alerted. Too late. Nangong Yun loudly shouted, go die. The fighter plane's source energy cannons released light at the same time. 4-5 beams of light flew across the sky and hit the fortress barrier, only creating faint ripples. However, this bit of attack power was not enough to break the fortress barrier. At this time, a missile suddenly shot out from under the Black Thunder fighter plane. This missile looked completely black. When it flew out at 10 times the speed of sound, it continued to accelerate, reaching at least 14-15 times the speed of sound. It was like a drill slamming into the fortress barrier. The missile did not cause a very strong explosion. A strange energy was released from it, and in an instant, a large number of runes covered the top part of the fortress barrier. The high-energy barrier that flowed like water suddenly froze like a layer of ice. Break for me. Nangong Yun fired the source energy cannons again. Pang! The sound of a mirror shattering could be heard. A large area of the barrier at the top of the stronghold actually shattered like shattered ice. At this moment, an incomparably ear-piercing whistle could be heard from above. The Heaven's Punishment airship's missile bombardment was about to arrive. Nangong Yun's fighter plane flew close to the edge of the fortress. She saw countless bombs falling down like rain, falling through the hole in the barrier, instantly turning the barrier into a sea of flames. Chapter 582. Nangong Yun used her mind to control the fighter plane. Now that the fighter plane was full of energy, the various kinetic devices were releasing energy that flowed along the array's path, constantly supplying energy to the source energy array. The entire fighter plane was covered in energy from the inside out, including each component. The entire fighter plane was covered in a faint glow as it was covered in a layer of protective shield. It was because of this that although the explosion created a strong shockwave, it didn't harm the fighter plane at all. When Nangong Yun came out of the center of the explosion with a long trail of flames behind her, she was surrounded by a sea of flames. Even 10 peak heaven domain experts couldn't create this kind of scene in an instant. Miracle Commerce used technology to do it. How shocking was this? Miracle Commerce's weapons were constantly being improved and the various high-altitude bombs were made from silver crude oil. Not to mention that Miracle Commerce's crude oil refining technology was completely different from when they were in South Sky City. Each bomb had a terrifying destructive might that could kill anything within 100 meters. A single Heaven's Punishment could release several thousand. 4 Heaven's Punishment added up to over 10,000. With this kind of terrifying attack, even flattening a city was easy. Because the sneak attack was too sudden and Miracle City's army made a strange move, breaking the fortress protective barrier, the fortress didn't have any time to prepare or react at all. They were instantly engulfed in a sea of flames from the dense explosions. Nangong Yun wildly laughed, the wall breaker is too useful. No matter which city we attack in the future, it won't be easy, right? The wall breaker was a missile Miracle Commerce had recently developed. The composition and structure were very complex and there were high-level runes engraved on it. Its main function was to stop the flow of energy. When it landed on a barrier or barrier, because the energy stopped circulating, the barrier would be instantly solidified and could be easily shattered. This was why Nangong Yun didn't break the barrier at first. After the wall breaker solidified the barrier, she used the second-generation source energy cannon on the fighter plane to shatter it. Success! The airships will self-destruct and everyone will retreat. The 4 Heaven's Punishment airships dropped their bombs on the fortress. Even if it was a Heaven Domain expert, they would still die if they couldn't escape from this concentrated attack. After this round of bombing, at least half of the fortress had been turned into ruins. The airships had already been exposed because the airships weren't fast. If the Eagle Burial Kingdom sent their air force, the airships wouldn't be able to escape the Eagle Burial Kingdom's borders at all. Therefore, they decided to self-destruct the airships and gave up on them. All the airship pilots sat on griffins and retreated. This was relatively safe and the airships wouldn't fall into the hands of outsiders. Black Lightning 2 has completed the mission. Black Lightning 3 has completed the mission. When Nangong Yun took care of this city, the communication channel continued to transmit information from other locations. Basically each Black Thunder aircraft had broken through the wall and launched a powerful surprise attack. Like this, over 10 important cities were destroyed and this was enough to cause an unimaginable loss to the Eagle Burial Kingdom. If the Eagle Burial Kingdom's Eagle ruler knew of this, he would definitely fly into a rage. Not only did these cities have a large military value, they were also the resource center of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. They gathered close to half of the country's rations and provided a certain amount of support for the armies. Now that they were all destroyed, the Eagle Burial Kingdom was a spirit beast kingdom with a strong military force, so they wouldn't be able to bear the consequences this time. Meng Qingwu's mission had reached this point, so it should have ended by now. Nangong Yun didn't feel satisfied and there were still 2 wall breakers left. She immediately pulled out the map and made a decision. We're not far from the Eagle Burial Kingdom's imperial city. Everyone gather together and we'll do it again. Nangong Yun was truly a madman. Could the Eagle Burial Kingdom's imperial city be the same as a normal city? This was definitely a very dangerous mission, but Nangong Yun didn't care that much. The Eagle Burial Kingdom cities were attacked at almost the same time, and with the Eagle Burial Kingdom's information transmission ability, no matter how fast the Imperial City reacted, they couldn't react before the fighter planes arrived. The dozen or so black lightnings slowly converged and headed in the same direction. These triangular pieces of black metal moved very quickly, arriving near the Eagle Burial Kingdom's Imperial City in just a few hours. Truly worthy of being Imperial City. The Eagle Burial Kingdom's Imperial City's scale surpassed one's imagination, occupying an entire field. There were no walls or tall buildings, looking very rough and messy, but it gave people a different sense of prosperity. Wall breaker! Nangong Yun loudly shouted. A wall breaker was inserted into the Imperial City's protective barrier. The Imperial City's protective barrier was much stronger than the fortress, so the wall breaker could only erode a small part of it, but it was enough. The source energy cannons fired. Pang! A piece of the barrier was shattered. More than a dozen black triangles flew into Royal City at lightning speed. Each of these fighter jets was loaded with all kinds of weapons. All kinds of super bombs condensed from second-generation energy immediately rained down on Royal City, instantly setting off one mushroom cloud after another. Open fire, open fire. Several heavy guns, as well as the source energy cannons, and all kinds of missiles were fired at the dense area. All of this happened too quickly, and the Imperial City people were caught off guard. In just a few short minutes, there were already large casualties. Nangong Yun flew the fighter plane through the center of the Eagle Burial Kingdom's Imperial City. She aimed at the most eye-catching royal palace in the center of the Eagle Burial Kingdom's Imperial City. Hong! Several source energy cannons fired at the same time. Several large holes were blasted in the royal palace. Several missiles pierced into the ground at an oblique angle, and the surrounding buildings were blown to pieces. Nangong Yun flew higher and began to charge forward with all her might. Although she was an impatient person, she wasn't a fool. She knew that Imperial City wasn't a place to stay for long. After blowing up a part of the buildings and pastures, she immediately gave an order: the sneak attack is complete. Break the wall and leave. These several war machines broke the barrier from one end and quickly passed through the Eagle Burial Kingdom's Imperial City. They began to bombard and attack along the way before finally shooting a wall breaker at the other end, creating another hole in the barrier. They were prepared to escape from this direction, but at this time, the Imperial City side began to react. The Eagle Burial Kingdom's Imperial City reacted. One after another, well-equipped army after another wildly flew into the sky from the Imperial City. All kinds of long-range flames, explosions, wind blades, and other attacks came down like a wild storm. We're under attack, we're under attack. Don't care about them, we're charging out. The Black Thunder fighter planes had Miracle City's energy shield, so although they suffered some attacks, it wouldn't be a problem for a short period of time. The Black Thunder fighter planes were faster than normal flying demon beasts, therefore as long as they left Imperial City's airspace, these fellows wouldn't be able to catch up. The several fighter planes charged out of the barrier and the several thousand soldiers in the air chased after them. It was just like Nangong Yun imagined. Although there were many Eaglemen experts, to reach the speed of the Black Thunder, they had to be at least in the Heaven Domain realm. The problem was, how many Heaven Domain experts were there? As for demon beasts, unless they were demon beasts with innate speed, normal level 3 demon beasts couldn't catch up to the Black Thunder. The gap between the two sides grew larger and larger. The Black Thunder could occasionally counterattack, but when everyone thought they could easily escape, who would have thought that a figure would suddenly charge out from the pursuing troops? His speed was clearly several times faster than any of the Eagle experts, even faster than Miracle City's Black Thunder fighter planes. This is... Nangong Yun was shocked. Why was there someone this fast? Perhaps the other side was a 100% Heaven Domain expert and had cultivated a special cultivation technique. He was an expert that specialized in speed, otherwise it would be impossible for him to catch up. The only one in the Eagle Burial Kingdom with this ability was the Eagle Burial Kingdom's king, that fellow who called himself the Eagle Ruler. Nangong Yun said with knit brows, "You leave first, I'll stall him." After saying this, Nangong Yun suddenly slowed down and turning around. She knew that with her strength, if she fought the Eagle Ruler head-on, she would be killed in a single move, therefore she had to maintain a certain distance. Hung, hung. The Black Thunder Source Energy Cannons continued to fire. The Eagle Ruler faced the Source Energy Cannon's attack and slowed down a bit, but the two sides were still approaching each other at a very fast speed. At this time, the Eagle Ruler suddenly sent out a giant blade glow that cut over 20,000 meters towards Nangong Yun. Nangong Yun's expression changed as she quickly dodged to the side. Pang! The energy blade fell on the Black Thunder Fighter's energy barrier and instantly cut off a piece of it. Miracle Commerce's current energy barrier could only block a few attacks from a true spirit expert, it definitely couldn't block a Heaven Domain expert's attack. If Nangong Yun hadn't reacted fast enough and dodged in time, she would have been destroyed. Such a powerful fellow. Nangong Yun fired several missiles, but it was useless. With this kind of speed, the Eagle Ruler could easily dodge them and there were only a few thousand meters between them at this time. Several heavy source energy guns were activated and they began to wildly fire. When this kind of attack hit a Heaven Domain expert, although it would consume a bit of their protective spirit energy, even if they just stood there and let Nangong Yun hit them, they wouldn't be able to break through their defenses. The Eagle Ruler's hands reached out and he suddenly condensed a powerful spirit energy before throwing it forward. It instantly turned into tens of thousands of scarlet energy needles, covering the area Nangong Yun was in like a wild storm. If there was a way to dodge the energy blades before, this attack couldn't be dodged at all. The Black Fighter was hit several hundred times and it suddenly exploded in the air, turning into a ball of flames. The Eagle Ruler gave a cold snort, but after taking care of this fighter, he prepared to look for the others, but he found that they had already disappeared. Chapter 583. Nangong Yun was in a very sorry state as she stumbled out of the transport array. Her clothes were in tatters and she was heavily injured, but she let out a long sigh of relief. There was a flash of flames on her body and all her injuries were automatically healed. That old thing really is strong. It's a good thing this old lady brought a transport scroll. Nangong Yun immediately ran off to report her work. It was too risky for Nangong Yun to launch a sneak attack on Imperial City, but it was a good thing they didn't suffer any losses. The other Black Thunder fighters were covered by Nangong Yun and were now smoothly leaving the Eagle Burial Kingdom. The success of this operation was mainly because of Meng Qingwu's intelligence-gathering work. Before the Eagle Burial Kingdom attacked the Kingdom Alliance, Meng Qingwu had already gathered information on the Eagle Burial Kingdom through various channels. Therefore, she was able to accurately destroy the most important fortresses of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. This sneak attack didn't affect the Eagle Burial Kingdom's main force, but it was a large blow to the Eagle Burial Kingdom. At least half of the Eagle Burial Kingdom's food reserves were gone, which would cause a large panic in the Eagle Burial Kingdom. Nangong, you've worked hard. Have a good rest. Meng Qingwu's plan had just taken the first step and she immediately began the second step. She called Feng Kaidai and Yunyao back and said to the two of them with a serious expression, "Your mission is also very important. I want you to go to the surrounding kingdoms occupied by the Eagle Burial Kingdom and cut off their food supply routes to the Eagle Burial Kingdom. At the same time, you need to help these countries recover." Even if Nangong Yun didn't have the foresight of Meng Qingwu, at this point, she at least knew what Meng Qingwu wanted to do. The Eagle Burial Kingdom was a spirit beast kingdom. In the first place, it was not good at farming, and in the past 10 years, it had been militarizing and attacking small and medium-sized countries everywhere. During the course of the war, the scale of its army was growing crazily every year, and its consumption was very large. It could only be maintained by fighting to sustain itself. The Eagle Burial Kingdom didn't slow down their invasion over the years because they couldn't stop. The Eagle Burial Kingdom had to keep plundering and expanding. Now in order to deal with the Rising Kingdom alliance, the Eagle Burial Kingdom had to stop all their attacks. This was a very dangerous matter in itself. Now Meng Qinggu had sent people to destroy several large granaries of the Eagle Burial Kingdom and was prepared to use military force to cut off the supply routes around the Eagle Burial Kingdom. She also used diplomatic and commercial methods to support the opposing forces of the Eagle Burial Kingdom, even if they didn't directly fight the main force of the Eagle Burial Kingdom. Meng Qingwu also had a way to drag down this outwardly strong but inwardly weak warring states. When Chu Tian came to the Great Zhou country to persuade the Blood Eagle King, the 5 wins and 5 losses he mentioned wasn't a joke. The Eagle Burial Kingdom had a strong military, but they didn't have enough economic and material strength. This country didn't need external help to die internally. Nangong Yun quickly said to Meng Qingyun, Yun, Yao, I, Shao of King Yun, Yao. Meng Qinggu shook her head, Nangong, relax, you have an even more important mission. You'll be organizing the fighter fleet now and then be on standby to attack the subterranean world. Nangong Yun's spirit array, understood. After Feng Kaidai and Yunyao finished their preparations, they immediately set off to travel around the various countries. Meng Qinggu had borrowed quite a few experts from the 4 giants and recruited quite a few experts from the forest. The 20,000 mecha berserker army that had defeated the Dark Eagle army on the Warhound's plains had also arrived in the Great Zhou Kingdom before the Eagle Burial Kingdom decided to attack the Great Zhou Kingdom. Although there was a large disparity in strength, it was enough to deal with them for a while. Now they were just waiting for the Eagle Burial Kingdom to change. Things in the Northern Kingdom were done. Meng Qinggu had to start dealing with the subterranean world again. Now that the 4 powers of the Forest of Chaos were fighting with the subterranean world, in terms of absolute strength, even if the subterranean world gathered most of the Purgatory world, they still couldn't compare to the Forest Alliance. However, the subterranean world and the Purgatory world were complicated, so the Forest Alliance couldn't do anything. Regarding the subterranean world, even Miracle City couldn't gather too much information. The Forest Alliance's soldiers and troops couldn't enter the subterranean world for now, so the Forest Alliance's main strategy was to defend and counter harassment. Meng Qinggu gave the Forest Alliance a monitoring device developed by Miracle Commerce, monitoring the underground life forms to the greatest degree, preventing the important resources and cities from being ambushed by the insects. On one hand, she had the Elven King lead the 4 giants, directly attacking the subterranean world cities from the Purgatory world. The 4 of them were enough to fight against an army of thousands. The Forest Alliance continued to send reports of losses and casualties, even having several forest cities captured, but in comparison, a portion of the sneak attacks were stopped and the spirit insect armies that came to ambush them were eliminated. The messenger that came from the Purgatory world told Meng Qinggu that the 4 giants had already taken down several cities in the subterranean world. Of course, the space gate could be used for large-scale teleportations, but there was a limit. Once there were too many, the energy would be overloaded. With Miracle City's current energy supply, even if the entire city's energy was used, they couldn't send several 100,000 people at once. Chu Tian and Meng Qinggu decided that they would only choose 30,000 elites and the rest would be gathered from the other cities and the 4 giants. The target of their attack this time was the Spider Queen's city. It wasn't something a single family could break. They needed many parties to work together to have a greater chance of success. The giant mountain ridge had 20 titans and over 2,000 giants. The dragon ridge had 15 dragons, 200 liches, and over 1,000 experts. The savage highlands had 20 behemoths and over 10,000 of Burst Claw's personal guards. Finally there was the Eternal Forest. The Eternal Forest was more troublesome. It was hard for those old fogies to pass a resolution to mobilize the Elven army. Even if they wanted to pass it, they would argue for a year and a half. Finally several dozen Elven city lords brought their guards and came to help in private. Although the army wasn't big, their battle strength was off the charts. In 2 days, these troops gathered in Miracle City. They gathered together with the 30,000 elites of Miracle City and gathered in front of the space gate. Chu Tian stood in front of the space gate. Everyone, the Forest Alliance is the home of everyone in the forest. The Forest Alliance can bring the entire forest rich material and spiritual pleasures. The Forest Alliance is the foundation and confidence for us to stand on the continent. Now that our Forest Alliance has reached a critical moment, those bugs crawling out of the ground actually want to destroy the Alliance and make the forest forever chaotic. What do you think we should do? Kill. 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 Shouts that were like mountains and seas came from all around. We've suffered quite a bit in this period of time and suffered large losses. Now it's time to let them have a taste of our might. Chu Tian took a step back and loudly shouted, I announce in the name of Miracle City's City Lord, open the space gate. Miracle City's energy was like 1,000 rivers flowing into this place. The entire field lit up with runes, spreading from the surroundings to the center, and finally gathering on the huge door-shaped building. Then, a powerful force condensed in the middle of the door-shaped building, and the entire space exploded with ear-piercing thunder and lightning. This space was like a basin of water that was being heated to a boiling state by the high temperature. Finally, a tearing sound rang out. A giant crack appeared, followed by a second, a third, a fourth. Countless cracks intertwined with each other, gradually forming a giant whirlpool. The whirlpool was very unstable at first, and there was a very strong flow of energy within it. However, the large-scale formation continued to work, and the unstable energy flow was quickly dispersed. An image gradually appeared in the whirlpool, and it was the environment of the underground world. Chapter 584. The Spider Queen Alexis' main city was in the core of the subterranean world, so this city was named after the queen. The city wasn't very big, but the people living in this city were all the Spider Queen's descendants, blood relatives, and most loyal guards. Alexis City was surrounded by other underground cities. There were all kinds of passes, forts, and danger zones. There were countless of them. Even if there was an army that wanted to attack Alexis City, they would have to pass through layers of steep terrain first, going through all kinds of harsh and dangerous areas, as well as pass after pass after pass before finally being able to attack Alexis City. It was because it was very difficult that no one doubted that Alexis City would fall. I think we're here. The spirit insect race's main city is in front of us. Four cloaked figures appeared in the underground world. They were standing in a very spacious underground field. The entire field was filled with strange underground plants. Some looked like mushrooms, while others looked like vines. It was quite a mystical scene. The spirit insect race's legendary Alexis City was now visible to the naked eye. The four of them were none other than the Elven King Lancelot and the other three large characters. Although it was hard to pass through Alexis City and there were all kinds of spirit insect forts blocking key areas, a trivial 4 people wasn't a big target. Not to mention that the 4 of them weren't normal people, wanting to sneak in without being discovered. Wasn't that an easy matter? Let's do it here. Deathwing Nidhogg's dignified dragon eyes looked around. Are Chu Tian's methods really reliable? The entire army was transported here. How could something like this be done? The Elven King revealed an elegant smile. Dragon Lord, before Chu Tian appeared, Miracle City's transport tower was also a very unreliable thing. Chu Tian can turn unreliable into reliable. What are you saying this for? Burst Claw had the most impatient personality. Let's begin. Thunder's Fury nodded and immediately began to prepare. He was a titan and the giant's craftsman shook the world, therefore Thunder's Fury wasn't lacking in this aspect. Thunder's Fury used an Eye of the Star as the core and began to build a simple transport tower. The space gate was different from the teleportation tower. The teleportation tower's teleportation point and receiving point were equivalent. As for the space gate, it was different. The most important thing was the teleportation point that tore through space. As for the receiving point, it only needed to be connected to the teleportation point. After Thunder's Fury finished building the transport tower, the 3 of them waited at the side. Half a day later, the teleportation tower lit up. A wave of energy suddenly descended from the void, causing the space around the teleportation tower to distort. Elemental energy wildly flowed about, and various types of energy clashed back and forth. The eyes of the star embedded on the surface of the transport tower suddenly shattered into pieces. When the eye of the star shattered, a large amount of energy was released into the surroundings, forming a door-like structure. Impressively, it was a huge teleportation portal in a state of nothingness. It consumes one eye of the star each time. The Elf King felt sorry for the broken eye of the star. The cost of such a teleportation is quite high. The Dragon Lord indifferently said, "If we can complete the teleportation of an army, what does a mere eye of the star count for?" This transport tower that had just been constructed was already destroyed. But the four giants revealed a faint trace of worry because the space gate could be connected to any transport tower. This meant that Miracle City's army could be sent to any of their bases. Whether it was the Eternal Forest, the Savage Highlands, the Dragon's Ridge, or the Giant Mountain. No matter how tight the defenses were. No matter how complicated the terrain was. These had no meaning in front of Miracle City at all. Miracle City's space gate could directly connect to their transport towers, so Miracle City's army could appear anywhere on the continent. Perhaps no one would feel safe in this situation. Could they destroy the transport tower? This was clearly not reliable. In the past, when there was no transport tower, everyone didn't feel that anything was wrong. Now that they were used to using the transport tower to go out, they realized that they couldn't live without it. There was no mode of transportation on the continent that could compare to the transport tower. There was no use thinking about this now. The Forest Alliance had just been formed and everyone was in their honeymoon period. Not to mention that Miracle City always used a win-win method. Although they had a high influence and reputation in the Forest of Chaos, they had never occupied a city or town. Rather, they established a cooperation platform and let everyone join in. Miracle City's strategy was to be strong but not bully. They didn't need to worry about falling out. When the space gate gradually formed, because the tearing of space created a very strong energy fluctuation, it also created a very ear-piercing noise that could be heard from 100 miles away. This was the main flaw of the space gate. Actually, if the people of this era had a strong enough sense of defense, each important city would have a quick response force to the space gate. The space gate needed time to form. As long as the space gate didn't appear, as long as they could interrupt it, they could stop it. If they had strong enough spatial technology, they wouldn't even need to send out a quick response force. They just needed to use a spatial interference device to deal with the space gate's sudden invasion. This was the method of the later generations. It was not feasible in this era. Although it was like this, the space gate's appearance was very loud and Alexis City's army had already felt it. Therefore, after a bit of chaos, several spirit insect generals led tens of thousands of soldiers out of the city to check the situation. What is that? The spirit insects saw a giant door-like building in the distance, appearing in the wilderness in front of them. When it was formed, it released a strong light and energy. This kind of strange scene was simply unheard of. The spirit insects didn't know what was going on, so naturally they didn't dare move forward. They didn't know. This short moment of being stunned was actually their last chance. The space gate went from blurry to clear. Now it had basically formed. The scene inside the space gate became clearer and clearer, gradually showing what Miracle City looked like. This is bad. A spirit insect general saw the 100-meter-tall space gate in the distance and the scene of the surface world appearing. His expression immediately fell as he said, "This is the plot of those damn fellows from the surface. Kill, kill, kill them all for me." What was going on was no longer important. The surface world appearing in the space gate meant that it was related to the surface world. How tense was the relationship between the subterranean world and the surface world? Therefore, anything related to the surface world was an enemy of the subterranean world. Destroying it and killing it was the right choice. However, it was too late. An ear-piercing whistle rang out. Several dozen Miracle City Black Lightnings charged into the space gate first, arriving in the subterranean world with a suffocating speed. They charged straight at the subterranean world's army. Source energy cannons, various missiles, and heavy source energy guns wildly swept out, catching the subterranean spirit insects off guard. They were all in a very sorry state. The several dozen black lightnings did not fight. After they quickly passed by the army, they headed straight for Alexis City. Wall break! Wall break! Nangong Yun shouted out as she shot out a black missile. This missile covered in source energy arrays was pushed forward and it flew in a straight trajectory towards Alexis City's barrier before exploding. The energy of Alexis City's barrier was far stronger than the Eagle Burial Kingdom's Imperial City. The wall breakers could open a giant hole in the Eagle Burial King City's barrier, but they could only create a small piece of damage here. It was a good thing they had the numbers to make up for this, with 8-9 wall breakers working at the same time, solidifying a large piece of the barrier. Shatter it! Several dozen source energy cannons wildly shot out and like breaking a mirror, a large hole appeared in Alexis City's barrier. The spirit insects didn't even have time to be shocked before there was a deafening sound of footsteps coming from the space gate. Giant behemoths came out one after another, with titans covered in lightning and even several dragons quickly charging out. The behemoths slammed down with their claws. The earth shook violently as if there was an earthquake. Cracks appeared on the ground like dragons swimming on the ground, violently rushing towards these warriors. Wherever the cracks passed, people would be sent flying. Titan's lightning followed closely behind. Hundreds and thousands of warriors were struck by these lightning bolts and turned into charcoal on the spot. The dragons flapped their giant wings as they appeared above them. Balls of dragon flames were spat out and more spirit insect warriors were turned to ashes. The spirit insect warriors were already caught off guard by this series of sudden changes. More and more of Miracle City's army entered the subterranean world, using a crushing method to defeat the weak spirit insect elites. Then they began to attack Alexis City. Chu Tian came out of the space gate and immediately found the Elven King and the others. He walked over with a laugh and said, "I've troubled you all." Lancelot and the others weren't lightly shocked by Miracle City's transport gate. Countless warriors came out of the transport gate like there was no end to them. In the history of the continent, when had there been such a shocking scene? Disregarding distance, disregarding the environment, and disregarding all obstacles, the most elite army directly moved in front of the enemy to fight. No matter how fast they reacted, they would still be caught off guard. There were already sounds of intense fighting coming from Alexis City. It should be the Spider Queen and Miracle City's attacking army fighting. The Spider Queen is a Heaven Domain expert that isn't weak, and there might be more than one Heaven Domain expert in this city. In order to reduce our casualties, I hope you all can help us. Chapter 585. Alexis City was one of the most important cities in the subterranean world. How could this kind of city's defenses be weak? The Spider Queen had a noble status. She was the strongest expert in the subterranean world and was the dictator that ruled over half of the subterranean world. She even wanted to expand into the Purgatory world and the surface world. This was a mission with both strength and methods. Alexis City was the Spider Queen's main city. Not only did this city have experts like clouds, it also had an impeccable terrain. Adding in the Spider Queen's fame and power, it was a sacred city that the subterranean world looked up to. They never thought that there would be a day when it would be attacked. Now, it had really happened. Everything happened so suddenly. The giant dragons, behemoths, titans, and elven city lords, each of them had a battle strength close to the Heaven Domain realm, adding up to 70 to 80 of them. Adding in the 4 giants of the Forest of Chaos, just this force was enough to crush most cities on the continent. Now there were tens of thousands of elite soldiers with peak experts from the 4 major powers, as well as Miracle Commerce's newest weapons. Alexis City was caught off guard and was suddenly attacked like this, showing a one-sided defeat. This was the decisive battle between the surface world and the subterranean world. After a wyvern successfully destroyed the surrounding buildings, its eyes suddenly fell on the castle that was embedded in the center like a jewel. It spread its wings and immediately flew towards that location. Dragon flames that could instantly vaporize steel gathered in its mouth. Roar! The wyvern spat out a large amount of dragon flames. Each dragon flame was independent and contained terrifying destructive power, and they shot towards the castle like arrows. Just as the exploding dragon flame was about to hit the castle, a powerful energy fluctuation suddenly came from inside the castle. Glowing dark red threads shot out from inside the castle, each of them colliding with the dragon flame. When the threads collided with the dragon flame, the powerful energy contained within them instantly dispersed the dragon flame. The dragon revealed a look of shock. The dragon flame was the main attack method of the dragon race. The stronger the dragon, the stronger its dragon flame attack. This dragon's strength was already close to the heaven domain realm, but it was easily broken by the other side. This could only mean that this breaker's strength was far above its own. The dragon felt this was bad and wanted to retreat, but it was already too late. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Tens of thousands of strands of spider silk shot into the sky and wrapped around the wyvern's back. These strands of spider silk looked thin, but each strand contained extraordinary power. They forcibly broke the wyvern's scales. The wyvern was immediately covered in cuts and bruises. It angrily cried out and tried to break free. Countless strands of spider silk pulled back and a figure was pulled up from the ground. This was a half-human half-spider person. Her body was twice the size of a normal spider person and she was covered in a strange purple color from head to toe. Her upper body was that of a cold and mature woman and her lower body was that of a terrifying 8 spider legs. The combination of beauty and ugliness did not seem out of place at all. She was surrounded by countless strands of spider silk. She could leap into the air and walk on the spider silk. This person's identity was almost obvious, she was definitely the famous Spider Queen of the underground world. At this moment, the Spider Queen's face was filled with rage. She had dominated the subterranean world for hundreds of years, and it had always been her who invaded others. She had never thought that one day her main city would be attacked by others. So, she was quickly pulled into the air by the spider silk. A blood-red spider silk appeared in her hand and she gently wrapped it around the wyvern's neck. This spider silk was so small that it was hard to see with the naked eye, but it contained a very strong cutting power. Adding the Spider Queen's powerful spirit energy, it was enough to cut off the wyvern's head. When the Spider Queen was about to make a move, a deep dragon roar sounded in the sky as Deathwing's human form quickly fell down. His dragon claw was covered in black dragon flames, sweeping across the sky and burning the dangerous spider silk. Deathwing quickly approached the Spider Queen and his other hand was covered in dragon flames, slapping at the Spider Queen's head. The Spider Queen raised her hand. Several hundred spider silk came out of her palm and weaved into a giant net. The spider silk was covered in all kinds of runes and the giant net turned into a giant barrier. Deathwing's claw filled with death dragon flames landed on the barrier and the two of them were separated at the same time. Very strong. Truly worthy of being the most famous king of the underground world. Spider Nuwa let out an ear-piercing cry and countless strands of spider silk that the naked eye could see came out of her body, instantly covering the sky above the city, Spider Silk Domain. There were at least hundreds of millions of spider silk. Each strand of spider silk was hard to distinguish and each strand of spider silk contained a powerful energy. The flying demon beasts sent by Miracle City flew over Alexis City. Because they passed through the spider silk, they were instantly cut into countless pieces. Several of Miracle City's Black Thunder planes accidentally entered this area and touched the sharp spider silk. The energy shield didn't have any effect at all and the planes were instantly cut in half like soft tofu. As they fell, they touched another strand and were cut into 4 pieces, 8 pieces, 16 pieces. Even a powerful creature like a flying dragon would be seriously injured when it fell into the spider silk, finally not being able to move. It was like a moth falling into a spider's web, being tightly glued to it. With the Spider Queen's strength, she controlled the entire sky. Silk Blade Rain. The Spider Queen's hands moved and countless strands of spider silk fell down like rain. These strands of spider silk completely ignored protective spirit energy and quickly covered the entire city. If people weren't careful while running, they would be cut in half and die a miserable death. Parasitic silk. The Spider Queen released a large amount of spider silk, and this spider silk directly entered a person's skull. Then the person that was penetrated by the spider silk would wildly attack their companions around them. Chu Tian saw this from afar. Silk Source Spirit. This kind of cultivation was already in the 7th heaven domain layer. In other words, in terms of the Spider Queen's cultivation, only Lancelot could compare to her. The other 3 giants were a level lower. I advise you not to be distracted. Deathwing was not in a rush to make a move. After seeing the Spider Queen's series of actions, he said in a very cold voice, "Your opponent is me." The Spider Queen's eyes were filled with a cold glow. Countless strands of spider silk were sent out like waves, moving like waves as they all charged at Deathwing at the same time. Deathwing's body was covered in black dragon flames. When the strands of spider silk came close, they were all turned to ashes. Although the Spider Queen's cultivation was higher than Deathwing's, as a true giant dragon, Deathwing was blessed by the heavens. It wasn't hard for him to fight someone 1 or 2 levels above him. The Spider Queen's spirit energy turned into spider silk that was an unstoppable death weapon to others, but it wasn't a threat to Deathwing at all. The Spider Queen's 10 fingers moved when she saw this. The millions of strands of spider silk gathered in the spider silk domain. These strands of glowing spider silk turned into different shapes, finally forming all kinds of arrays. Heaven-splitting claw. Deathwing was quickly suppressed by the power of the array, and his claws quickly swept out. Surging dragon flames were released along with the claw glow, and the surrounding source energy arrays were all broken. The Spider Queen's expression slightly changed. She quickly raised her hands and shot out tens of thousands of sharp strands. The countless strands intersected around Deathwing, quickly forming a dense forest. Each strand was filled with strong spirit energy, and each strand released a dazzling glow, as if it could cut through anything in this world. Even if a heaven domain expert fell into this forest of strands, they would be instantly cut to pieces. Deathwing was not afraid at all. His body was covered in dragon flames as he charged at the countless strands. These strands that could cut through profound iron like tofu cut through Deathwing's body. They passed through his protective spirit energy and left large amounts of cuts on his scales, but they were quickly burned by the dragon flames. Scram! Deathwing passed through the dense forest of spider silk and appeared in front of the Spider Queen. The scales on his body were already covered in dragon blood, but these were just superficial wounds. Deathwing's power erupted and a flaming fist slammed at the Spider Queen. The Spider Queen's hands opened and a barrier of glowing spider silk appeared in front of her. Deathwing's fist directly shattered the barrier, and the Spider Queen was covered in death dragon flames. She fell to the ground from the sky, and the giant force caused the surrounding area to cave in. Deathwing slowly fell from the sky, and his broken scales quickly healed. With a giant dragon's strong recovery ability, these injuries quickly healed. The Elven King, Thunder's Fury, and Burst Claw were all watching without making a move. None of these 4 were normal people. The Elven King had the highest cultivation, and he had a rare innate time talent. Although the other 3's cultivations were a bit weaker, they all had the advantage of their races. It could be said that any one of them was an expert that could shake a region. It was because they were all great characters and were worthy of being experts that they disdained working together to attack them. Of course, Deathwing's strength was enough. The Spider Queen was indeed strong, but she couldn't beat this giant dragon. The 4 of them walked to the side of the giant hole. The Spider Queen had been heavily injured by the dragon flames and was currently struggling to stand up. Her eyes were filled with hatred and hatred. Lancelot said, "Your strength isn't weak, how about you join us?" "You want me to join you?" The Spider Queen said with a cold smile, "I am the only king, and a king will never compromise. As long as I'm alive, I won't join you." Sue! A sword of lightning pierced through the Spider Queen. The Spider Queen's eyes instantly popped out. Thunder's Fury's right arm was covered in lightning and there was a long lightning blade in his palm. He coldly looked at the Spider Queen and said, "You think we won't kill you? Since you're seeking death, why wouldn't I help you?" The Spider Queen had been killed. This news set off a storm in the subterranean world. At least the cities that had been ruled by the Spider Queen were now free and there were countless battles for fame and power. The subterranean world had lost a ruler and the threat to the Forest Alliance was greatly reduced. At least Miracle City wouldn't place them in their eyes anymore. Chu Tian could use this chance to support several subterranean world characters, using this chance to pull the subterranean world closer to Miracle City. This would basically eliminate any future troubles. Chapter 586. Reporting to the City Lord. We've found a palace that seems to be a treasure house in the city. A Miracle City soldier cleaning up the battlefield ran in front of Chu Tian. Treasure house. Bring me to take a look. The Spider Queen spent most of her life expanding. From the surface to the purgatory world, there were traces of the Spider Queen, so how could this kind of ruler not have her own treasure house? But the scale of the Spider Queen's treasure house really made Chu Tian dumbfounded. Although he had guessed that the Spider Queen was very rich, he never thought she would be this rich. There were 6 floors in the palace and each floor was filled with treasures. From various metals to elixirs, there were divine weapons and armor, there was as much as one wanted. Even Deathwing was shocked when he saw the Spider Queen's wealth. Where did this fellow get this much wealth? The Spider Queen was the highest ruler of the subterranean world and all the resources of the subterranean world were in her hands. The Spider Queen's family was a powerful subterranean world clan that had existed for thousands of years, so how could her collection be small? Chu Tian swept it with his divine sense. Although he didn't look closely, he found quite a few important resources. There were over 10 level 3 immortal herbs and quite a few eyes of the star and other rare materials. The Spider Queen's collection was just too rich, there were many things from the surface and purgatory world. Chu Tian thought of the first time he had a conflict with the Spider Queen's forces. That was because the Spider Queen's descendant had occupied the Oldman mines and didn't even let a small dwarf town go. It could be imagined how greedy these insects were. The Spider Queen was the supreme ruler among them and most of the resources she plundered would be offered to Imperial City in the end. Of course. The wealth was constantly being updated. The high-quality items that the Spider Queen really liked were stored in the treasure house, as for the low-quality items, they didn't even have the qualifications to be put in. Each year there would be some things that weren't good enough that were removed from the treasure house to make room for better resources. We've really made a large profit this time. Chu Tian had an excited look on his face. How many source stones do you think the things inside are worth? The Dragon Lord said with his unique intuition towards wealth, I estimate around 50-60 million source stones. 50-60 million source stones. This was just the Spider Queen's personal collection. If the wealth of the entire Alexis Empire was taken out, what kind of shocking number would that be? I won't take advantage of you. Chu Tian was very satisfied. Everyone has a share of this money. How about we split it equally among the 5 families? The 4 magnates were stunned. What a generous gesture. Although the 4 giants had great contributions in taking down Alexis City, it was all thanks to Chu Tian's space gate. Without Miracle City's space gate, what could the 4 giants do? Miracle City's investment in the space gate wasn't small. Therefore, even if Chu Tian took 1 or 2 more portions, the others would have nothing to say. Now, Chu Tian didn't care about all this, and directly split it evenly with the 4 magnates. This was not a little bit of wealth. Everyone is the pillar of the Forest Alliance, so there's no need to be polite with me. When the Forest Alliance is officially expanding, we'll take this wealth back and use it as development funds. I believe that the Forest Alliance's development will take a step further. Chu Tian waved his hand. Let's look around and see if there's anything special here. The 4 giants revealed looks of satisfaction. This was also why they liked cooperating with Chu Tian. Chu Tian was a free and easy person, he didn't care about gains and losses. If this treasure worth 50 million was split evenly, each family would make a profit of 10 million. If this wealth was used to invest in the Alliance's platform, the four giants' power would soar and they could even easily charge out of the Forest of Chaos. The richest person in the forest, Nidhogg, was filled with excitement. Not to mention the other three. The Savage Highlands were very poor, so they couldn't compete with the other three in the Forest Alliance. This money was enough to solve this urgent problem. Although the giants weren't poor, they consumed a large amount of resources. There were many things in the Queen's treasury that the giants needed the most. The Elven King was the same. The elves weren't poor, but they were restricted by the old guard, so most of the wealth couldn't be used. This income was very important to the Elven King. Wait a minute, this is Spider Crystal. A large treasure chest filled with a kind of gray crystal appeared in front of him. Chu Tian instantly revealed a look of wild joy, he was even more excited than seeing an immortal herb. He immediately rushed over and grabbed a handful to study. What material is this? Even the Titan Thunder Fury had never seen this kind of crystal before. Is this thing special? This is the so-called rare things are precious. The Dragon Lord looked over it. There were over 100 boxes of this gray crystal and it didn't seem like a precious material at all. Please take a look. Chu Tian held a spider crystal in his hand. He poured his spirit energy into the crystal and activated it. From the spider crystal, there were tens of thousands of glowing threads that floated around like hair. They floated around and did not dissipate for a long time. The value of the spider crystal is that it is an excellent source energy array carrier. These tens of thousands of strands of spider silk were controlled by his mind. They were like needles in the hands of a tailor, constantly intertwining and joining together, finally gradually forming an incomparably large source energy array. The four giants all revealed looks of shock. Chu Tian continued to say, the higher the quality of the spider crystal, the larger the capacity. The spider crystal in my hand is enough to hold a complete source energy computer, which means that as long as we have these spider crystals, Miracle Commerce can make a smaller and lighter supercomputer. They can even use high-quality spider crystals or large amounts of spider crystals to create calculations that are 10 or even 100 times faster. What do you think about the value of this thing? The spider crystal could be used to lay down arrays. A large array spider crystal could be easily stored inside. The spider crystal's value was not high in this era. The reason why the Spider Queen collected it was most likely because she liked it. It was probably because the spider crystal seemed to be related to the spider race. This kind of material had a revolutionary position in the source energy technology era. After Miracle Commerce's source energy computing matrix was developed, the Yun sect had been working hard to optimize and upgrade it. Although the calculation speed was becoming faster, there was no qualitative change. This was because it required several hundred source energy arrays to work at the same time, so the source energy computer could not be compressed. Now the situation was different. The new array carrier, a small spider crystal, was enough to hold several hundred source energy arrays. The spider crystal itself was a material that could hold spiritual bodies, so it could be used to create a portable smart brain. If this material was used in large amounts, Miracle Commerce would reach a whole new level in the future. Lancelot said, since there are this many spider crystals in the treasury, that means there must be a spider crystal mine in the subterranean world. We have to find this mine, it has a large significance to the Forest Alliance. The other three also thought this. The spider crystal in the Spider Queen's treasury had clearly been refined, which meant that the subterranean world had already been mining this resource. They were too lazy to keep looking at the treasures. They interrogated the captives and finally found out the whereabouts of the spider crystal mine. Spider crystals were not a rare resource in the subterranean world. There were over 5 known spider crystal mines in the subterranean world. This discovery made Chu Tian wild with joy. There was actually such a rich mine, the new generation of source energy technology could be developed with spider crystals as a carrier. The spider crystal mine could be slowly mined. Chu Tian first had to clean up the mess in front of him. The Spider Queen had been taken care of and Alexis City had been taken over. The Alexis Kingdom had fallen. The Alexis Kingdom was the largest power and pillar of the subterranean world, so its chaos naturally spread to the entire subterranean world. The attitudes of the underground cities varied. There were those who were angry, those who were lucky, those who were happy, and those who were sad. The Spider Queen had ruled the subterranean world for around 200 years, so naturally there were many descendants and loyal people who wanted revenge. Only they were met with the wild titan's lightning and the shadow of the giant dragon's wings. Although they met a bit of resistance, it was not worth mentioning. It didn't take long before they were easily defeated. The spirit insects were not humans, so they didn't have any civilization or culture. They didn't have boring things like honor. Just like the dark races and demons of the purgatory world, the spirit insects of the subterranean world worshipped the strong and were a race that placed strength above all else. They were a race that easily submitted to power. The Forest Alliance's army swept through the restless cities, displaying a powerful battle strength. The other cities all hid like turtles, not daring to come out and criticize the Forest Alliance. Alexis City had been destroyed. Could they be stronger than the Spider Queen? Alexis City's destruction was very strange. The Forest Alliance's army seemed to have suddenly appeared in the underground world, appearing in the center of the subterranean world. There wasn't a single spirit insect that noticed this, which was undoubtedly a very strange matter. There were more and more rumors about the Forest Alliance. If the Forest Alliance army could suddenly appear in Alexis Imperial City, then they could appear in front of any of the great spirit insect lords. Even the powerful Spider Queen couldn't take a single blow, so what did they count for in front of the Forest Alliance? The subterranean world had lost the Spider Queen and the entire power system was being reshuffled. The spirit insect lords were even secretly surrendering to the Forest Alliance because these spirit insects knew that the Forest Alliance had defeated the Alexis Kingdom, but the Forest Alliance couldn't directly take over the subterranean powers. They needed to develop their own local influence and this was the best time to take advantage of it. Chu Tian conveniently split the Alexis Kingdom into several pieces. This way, the subterranean world would be in chaos for a while, but it wouldn't be a threat to the surface. Even if there was a new stable structure in the future, it would be restricted by Miracle City and Miracle Commerce, so they wouldn't dare or have the ability to rebel. In for a penny, in for a pound. After dealing with the subterranean world, they would deal with the purgatory world. Deathwing and Burst Claw had already led their armies to find a path to the purgatory world. The purgatory world had the Forest Alliance's space fortress, so the Forest Alliance army could stay in the purgatory world for a long time. They could protect their current purgatory world territory and they could also eat away at other areas of the purgatory world. The purgatory world didn't have as many people as the subterranean world and the purgatory world was more divided, but the purgatory world had more experts than the subterranean world. It was a bit troublesome to deal with them, but with experts like Burst Claw and Deathwing, this little problem could be easily solved. Chapter 587. The subterranean world had Lancelot and Nidhogg. The purgatory world had Titan's Thunder Fury and Behemoth's Burst Claw. Chu Tian didn't have anything to worry about, so he directly returned to Miracle City. The first thing he did was to find the young Miss and the Yun sect's highest officials. Not only did we win the war against the subterranean world, we also obtained an unexpected harvest from this operation. Miracle City still couldn't establish a communication channel with the underground world. However, Chu Tian could use the space warehouse to send messages, so Meng Qinggu already knew the situation in the subterranean world. This good news had already spread through the Forest Alliance, making the Forest Alliance members cheer. This victory not only eliminated the Forest Alliance's greatest enemy, the Forest Alliance also used this chance to enter the underground world. This was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. What would the unexpected harvest be? The matter that made Chu Tian come back to the city was definitely not a small matter. Elder Clark, Old Yun, and Old Gu, the problem of the new material that you've been worrying about has now been solved. Chu Tian placed a pile of spider crystals on the table. From today onwards, all important or complex products of Miracle Commerce will be replaced with spider crystals. Everyone understood the use of the spider crystals, so they all focused on the large array. The source energy array carriers on the continent for tens of thousands of years were mostly beast skins, stone plates, and crystal plates. These materials were easy to obtain, but there were too many inconveniences. It was fine to make small to medium-scale source energy arrays, but large-scale source energy arrays, especially one made of countless source energy arrays, couldn't hold them at all. Miracle Commerce's supercomputer or the Black Thunder Fighter, these complex products all needed a set of source energy arrays. Large amounts of source energy arrays needed to be engraved on a carrier and then placed in a special box. The source energy array was large and took up a lot of space. The more complex the structure, the easier it was to damage it. This kind of engraved array, if it wasn't properly protected, any impact or attack could damage it. Even if a single array was damaged a little, the entire array system would be useless. This was undoubtedly very inconvenient. Miracle Commerce's technology was becoming more and more mature now. In the future, choosing a better, more stable, and more outstanding carrier for the array would have a very important effect. The discovery of the spider crystal was just the right time for Miracle Commerce. The old fellows of the Yun sect had been searching for new materials for half a year. Now that they knew the use of the spider crystal, they were all filled with excitement. Chu Tian announced the plan. I hope to upgrade Miracle City's city management's smart brain, especially the core manager 0. There needs to be at least 100 high-quality spider crystals embedded in it, allowing it to calculate tens of billions of times a second. Everyone was taken aback. Tens of billions of times per second? Even if all of Miracle City's smart brains were added together, they couldn't reach this speed. Meng Qinggu was also filled with joy and excitement. Now that Miracle City was becoming larger and larger, there was more and more data that needed to be processed each day. Zero's ability was becoming more and more insufficient, so if this breakthrough upgrade could be completed, Miracle City would become more orderly. Although it sounded very scary, with a good thing like the spider crystal and the thousands of people in the Yun sect responsible for the source energy matrix, it was only a matter of time before a new generation of smart brains appeared. Chu Tian announced a series of plans. In short, because of the appearance and use of the spider crystal, Miracle City's future development was worth looking forward to. The Yun sect's people all left and there was only the young miss left in the conference room. Meng Qinggu said to Chu Tian, I never thought that I would have such an important harvest in the subterranean world. The value of the spider crystal to me is even higher than the underground world itself. Of course, Miracle Commerce has reached a bottleneck. It isn't a bottleneck in innovation or technology, rather it is a bottleneck in materials. The appearance of the spider crystal this time is very different. Chu Tian suddenly thought of something. Speaking of this, we only have one problem left and that is the Eagle Burial Kingdom. How is the Eagle Burial Kingdom now? How is the Great Zhou country? Is Big Sister Bing in danger? Relax, the Eagle Burial Kingdom isn't a threat at all. Oh. What do you mean? This matter began with Meng Qingwu's previous plan. At that time, Meng Qingwu's plan was to send Nangong Yun to launch a surprise attack, destroying the Eagle Burial Kingdom's 10 largest granaries and winning over the citizens of the destroyed kingdoms. When the Eagle Burial Kingdom's surprise attack succeeded, Meng Qingwu immediately spread the news to these areas. Under the instigation of Miracle Commerce, rebellions occurred everywhere and the country fell into chaos. The three Eagle Kings had just taken a third of the Great Zhou country's cities and before their butts even warmed, they received the order to return. They were immediately called back by the Eagle ruler and sent out to suppress the rebellions. The Eagle Burial Kingdom couldn't even take care of themselves. How could they still have the mind to deal with the three kingdoms? Once the news of the Spider Queen being killed reached the Eagle Burial Kingdom, perhaps the Eagle Burial Kingdom wouldn't even dare think of dealing with the three kingdoms. They would be pressured into making peace in the end. Chu Tian broke out in laughter. Good, good young miss. You made the Eagle Burial Kingdom this miserable without fighting them head-on. The Eagle Burial Kingdom's defeat was caused by themselves. Meng Qinggu revealed a very appropriate faint smile. If it wasn't for them wasting their resources and wildly invading other countries, they wouldn't have fallen to their current state. Chu Tian nodded. In for a penny, in for a pound. We'll strengthen the blockade and increase the military support for the restoration forces. We can't give the Eagle Burial Kingdom a single chance. Meng Qinggu said, Relax, this plan has just begun and I have already prepared the next steps. The Eagle Burial Kingdom won't have a chance to make a comeback this time. The young miss said this. Chu Tian was also assured. From the Eagle Burial Kingdom in the north, to the sea race in the west, and even the underground world, they had all been taken care of by Miracle City. This plot against the Forest Alliance had completely failed, and after this setback, the Forest Alliance would have another chance to erupt. After the Eagle Burial Kingdom was overthrown, the small and medium-sized kingdoms in the north would join together, forming a large power in the future. This would become Miracle City's back garden and market. After the underground world was subdued, the Forest Alliance could control the purgatory and subterranean powers, obtaining precious resources that couldn't be found on the surface, especially treasures like the spider crystal that had a large strategic value. The Northern Sea race was still in a deadlock, but the Deep Blue Princess Jean Luo was already in Miracle City. Chu Tian believed that it was only a matter of time before West Sea City joined the Forest Alliance. Miracle Commerce's influence spanned across many regions. In terms of population and influence, it completely surpassed a warring kingdom's power. Now it was already standing shoulder to shoulder with an empire-level power. Although Miracle Commerce was developing at a rapid pace, Chu Tian's individual strength wasn't strong enough. Therefore, Chu Tian felt that he should go into closed-door cultivation while he had time. He found quite a few level 3 immortal herbs in the Empress treasure room. Chu Tian had placed them in the space warehouse in the subterranean world. Now that he had returned to Miracle City's laboratory, Chu Tian took out an immortal herb and several demon ant eggs to refine a pill. The demon ant egg's greatest effect was to increase one's spiritual energy. The immortal herbs that Chu Tian chose had a certain spiritual energy increase effect. When he took the level 3 immortal pill, Chu Tian instantly felt his spiritual energy increase. Although spiritual energy increased his divine sense, Chu Tian's divine sense had already reached the vision domain level. If he wanted to advance again, it would be a very difficult matter. At least an immortal herb and several dozen demon ant eggs were far from enough. The main effect of this pill was still to increase his spirit energy. Not long ago, when Chu Tian was changing his body, he had accumulated a large amount of energy in his body that hadn't been completely digested. This time he used an immortal pill to increase his cultivation. Naturally he jumped into the 9th true spirit layer, not far from the peak 9th true spirit layer. When Chu Tian was prepared to charge into the peak 9th true spirit layer, Meng Qinggu suddenly sent a message. The Eagle Burial Kingdom's Eagle ruler has sent a letter of peace, inviting the Forest Alliance's city lord to the Eagle Burial Kingdom's imperial city to negotiate. This old fellow finally couldn't sit still anymore. Meng Qinggu said to Chu Tian, there is no need to go to the Eagle Burial Kingdom's territory to negotiate. The Eagle ruler's sincerity is not enough. Perhaps he has another plan. Another plan? Chu Tian hoped that he had another plan. The Eagle Burial Kingdom was infamous for fighting all over the place, and the Eagle ruler was ambitious. With this kind of power existing, it would be detrimental to the peaceful development of the region. The Elven King and the Dragon Lord's mess in the subterranean world, I think they have pretty much cleaned it up. Chu Tian planned in his heart as he said, I'll have the two of you come with me. No matter what tricks the Eagle Burial Kingdom plays, they can't do anything to me. With the protection of the Elven King and the Dragon Lord, of course Meng Qinggu could be assured. The Elven King and the Dragon Lord returned from the subterranean world that day. The two of them followed Chu Tian to the Warhound Plains, which was the northernmost transport tower. They then went to the Eagle Burial Kingdom from the transport tower. The Eagle Burial Kingdom had been shaken in this period of time and they had lost control of their internal and external territories. The several kingdoms that the Eagle Burial Kingdom had bitterly conquered over the years were now resisting with the support of Miracle City. Even if it was a motley crew, as long as they had Miracle Commerce's advanced equipment, they could become an army that would give people headaches. The subsidiary kingdoms had lost control and the country had suffered heavy losses. Under these repeated attacks, many families in the Eagle Burial Kingdom began to have different opinions about the Eagle ruler. They began to question whether the Eagle Burial Kingdom's path of persistence was correct. The Eagle ruler was being doubted, so naturally he had to take action. This time, he invited Miracle City's city lord, who was also the highest leader of the Forest Alliance, Chu Tian, to come to the Eagle Burial Kingdom's imperial city to negotiate. This was done under pressure. Chu Tian was not stupid enough to think that the other side would give in because of this. This fellow had an arrogant and cruel personality, wanting him to give in to a human. This was definitely impossible. Chu Tian wanted to see what kind of dragon's gate he could set up. Chapter 588. The Eagle Burial Kingdom's imperial city was located in the northern highlands, with sparse vegetation and mainly grasslands. The Eagle Burial Kingdom's spirit beasts were like most of the spirit beasts on the continent, they were nomadic tribes. Royal City was also full of the nomadic style and characteristics. Stables for all kinds of livestock mounts could be seen everywhere, and the skeletons of all kinds of giant beasts were the main materials for houses. The castle palace in the center was called the Mammoth Palace. In fact, it was a huge palace complex built with 180 ancient mammoths as the pillars. Mammoth Palace was solemn at this moment. Several thousand spirit beast palace guards had serious expressions as they stood on both sides. The eagle race warriors flew in the sky as the bugle horns sounded and the drums sounded out. A dignified aura covered the Mammoth Royal Palace. The Forest Alliance's envoy has arrived. Two figures, one big and two small, appeared in front of Mammoth Palace. The three of them stood side by side, and both of them were wearing cloaks and wrapped up tightly, making them seem especially low-key. As for the human youth in the middle, he was the exact opposite. He was dressed in snow-white clothes, and his skin was enough to make a woman feel extreme desire. Yet, his figure accentuated the masculinity that a man should have. His complexion was like jade, and he was handsome and elegant. Chu Tian walked into the main hall of the Mammoth Palace in an ostentatious manner. There were several hundred divine eagle race palace guards standing around him like statues. Each of them had the strength of a true spirit realm expert. There was a tall throne in the center of the palace, and there was an old man from the divine eagle race wearing a dark red royal robe sitting on it. This person was definitely the Eagle Emperor. Chu Tian walked up with a smile. Miracle City's city lord Chu Tian greets His Majesty the Eagle Ruler. Miracle City's Chu Tian. As expected, his elegant demeanor was outstanding. I've heard a lot about you. The Eagle Emperor sized up Chu Tian from head to toe. He discovered that Chu Tian only had the cultivation of the rank 9 true spirit, and a trace of contempt flashed past his eyes. Then, his gaze landed on the two people behind Chu Tian, and he realized that he was unable to see through their strength. He couldn't help but frown and ask, "These two are? Both of you are experts from the Forest Alliance and are now this little one's guards. So it's an expert from the Forest Alliance." The Falcon Emperor's eyes revealed a trace of fear, but he did not show it. He raised a hand and said, "The three of you have come from afar, so please take a seat." "Thank you, Eagle Emperor." Chu Tian's attitude was very appropriate. He didn't seem like the dominant party in this negotiation at all. He first cupped his hands in thanks to the Eagle Emperor, then walked to the throne that had been prepared at the side of the hall. The Elven King and the Dragon Lord sat on his left and right respectively. "The Eagle Emperor has invited me to discuss the peace treaty. This one deeply agrees and is honored. Peace is the cornerstone of prosperity. We should all strive for peace and reduce war." Chu Tian first said a bunch of polite words. May I ask how the Eagle Emperor is going to formulate this peace treaty? The Eagle Emperor's expression did not change. He only said indifferently, there's no rush. Both of us are in the game. Even if we draw up a peace treaty, it will not be fair and credible enough. That's why this king has invited a notary. Chu Tian frowned slightly. It seemed that the notary was the source of the mystery. At this moment, a human slowly walked in from the side hall. He was wearing gray-scale armor and had a gray cloak around his neck. His hair was gray, and he had a small beard. His left hand was pressed against a sword at his waist. He looked very ordinary, and he was a middle-aged warrior with a thin body. An expert in the seventh heaven domain layer. The Elven King Lancelot's voice sounded in his ears. Of course the Elven King used a secret technique, so only Chu Tian could hear him. Chu Tian gave a slight nod and didn't say anything. But in a country like the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom, it wasn't likely for an expert of this level to appear. The Eagle Emperor himself was only in the fourth heaven domain layer. Not to mention that the other side was a human, how could he be from the Spirit Beast Kingdom? The Eagle Emperor introduced, "This is the Big Dry Empire's great general." The Big Dry Emperor bestowed the title of Martial King, Jing Wuing. He has appeared here today to be a fair judge for our peace treaty. The Big Dry Empire's great general. What the hell was going on? Chu Tian had just offended a country protector sage in the Western Sea and now a great general had appeared. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Of course, perhaps it wasn't a coincidence at all. Jing Wuing looked at Chu Tian. Chu Tian felt like a raging wave hitting the shore, like a mountain flood. This fellow was trying to show off his power to father. Chu Tian narrowed his eyes without moving, but his divine sense was released, falling onto Jing Wuying's body. Jing Wuying's body slightly trembled, but he didn't show any abnormalities, only his expression was a bit ugly. The Eagle Emperor turned a blind eye to the contest between the two of them. All right, since both sides are here, we can start talking. Chu Tian nodded, let's start. The Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom was provoked by the Spider Queen Alexis, so they started a war with your alliance. Now that Alexis is dead, this king feels like this matter should be settled. I also feel the same way. The Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom has caused losses to the three kingdoms. The martial King Jing Wuing suddenly cut in. As the third party that was invited to mediate, he gave a suggestion to the Eagle Emperor. The Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom should compensate for the losses. The Eagle Emperor said with an expressionless face, that's fine. Chu Tian said with a smile, Your Majesty is too polite, this little one doesn't care about this bit of compensation. The Forest Alliance ambushed several important cities of the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom, destroying over half of the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom's food reserves, as well as inciting the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom's subsidiary countries to rebel, as well as funding all kinds of new weapons. All of this has caused large losses to the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom. Although the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom was in the wrong, the Forest Alliance's actions are too excessive. Chu Tian smiled when he heard Jing Wuying's words, then how does the Martial King think we should solve this? The Forest Alliance will immediately stop all actions against the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom and give them compensation. Chu Tian nodded, stopping is easy, as for compensation. Miracle City is the core city of the Forest Alliance and according to what I know, they have large amounts of technology that the outside world doesn't know about. These technologies will harm the peace of the continent and the region, so I think in order to prevent another war and to show the Forest Alliance's sincerity, you should publicize these dangerous technologies and rebalance the continent. Chu Tian wasn't angry when he heard this ridiculous request. Miracle City's technology is the blood and sweat of our team. Do we have to hand it over with a single sentence from the Martial King? Miracle City cannot show their sincerity if they don't hand over their technology. Jing Wuing softly said, the Big Dry Empire will not tolerate an unlimited threat appearing in their region. If you insist on doing this, the Big Dry Empire can only ally with the Eagle Burial Warring Kingdom and attack Miracle City together, preventing those evil technologies from harming the continent. Chu Tian broke out in laughter like he had heard the funniest joke in the world. The eagle ruler knit his brows. Why is Miracle City's city lord laughing? You really don't have any creativity. I was hoping for some tricks. An empire can threaten me? You're looking down on father too much. Chu Tian stood up. All right, I've seen the eagle ruler's sincerity. What kind of bullshit treaty is this? We can talk about it here. I'm very busy, I don't have time to talk. Walk? Now that you've come here, can you still leave in one piece? 10 spatial fluctuations appeared in the hall. There were actually 10 experts with innate spatial energy that suddenly appeared in the hall. Each one of them released a powerful spatial energy that instantly disturbed the space around them. I know you have a spatial scroll that can teleport. Jing Wuing coldly said, so I specially brought 10 innate spatial energy experts from the Big Dry Empire. Now that this space has been disturbed, no spatial manipulation can be done unless one has a spatial energy cultivation no lower than the Heaven Domain realm. It's a pity you don't have one. Chu Tian rubbed his chin. Although it doesn't have any creativity, you've done your homework to deal with me. Relax. Jing Wuing revealed a cold smile. You're a treasure now, I won't harm your life. At most I'll cripple you. After all, the Big Dry Empire needs your knowledge. Chu Tian spread out his hand. If you really have this ability, then give it a try. The sword at Jing Wuying's waist was pulled out. This moment gave people the feeling that it wasn't a sword being pulled out, but rather a mountain range or a river being pulled out. An incomparably large sword chi instantly swept across the mammoth palace, passing through the 10 layers of mammoth bone walls before finally flying into the sky. Such a strong sword chi. Chu Tian stood in place without moving. He just looked at Jing Wuing with a cold smile. It's a pity it's not enough to injure me. Jing Wuying's slightly narrowed eyes suddenly opened wide. When the sword chi swept over, a figure beside Chu Tian suddenly reached out a staff to block it. That's right. With just a casual block, the sword chi was pushed away and bounced off in a different direction. Jing Wuing revealed a look of disbelief. Even in the Big Dry Empire, the only people that could block his sword chi would be an unrivaled expert like the Big Dry Emperor. Could he have met an expert that could compare to the Big Dry Emperor? Nidhogg, I'll leave the eagle ruler to you. The Elven King Lancelot calmly took a step forward. Leave this martial king to me. Deathwing was a bit dissatisfied. This isn't challenging at all. Chu Tian said from the side, you too, can you move a bit faster? This is someone else's headquarters after all. I think that in less than 5 minutes, you'll be surrounded by hundreds of thousands of troops. The eagle ruler and Jing Wuing were both stunned. Chu Tian did not place them in his eyes at all. Jing Wuing gave an angry roar and shot out from his position, slashing at Lancelot with his treasure sword. Lancelot did not make any movements, but his staff released a green light that instantly formed a large net. When Jing Wuying's invincible sword chi fell into the net, it was completely absorbed. This net wildly grew after absorbing Jing Wuying's sword chi, shooting out countless branches that covered the entire main hall, binding the divine eagle guards that were prepared to make a move. The Elven King casually waved his hand and a green light erupted, sending Jing Wuing flying. The Elven King was in the 7th Heaven Domain layer and the scepter in his hand could increase the Elven King's strength, so this Jing Wuing was not his match at all. On the other side, Deathwing directly attacked the eagle ruler. Chu Tian was not idle as he suddenly clasped his hands together. A 9-eyed demon god source spirit appeared above his head. Chu Tian's eyes turned purple and purple represented his soul. A giant purple scythe covered in runes appeared in the 9-eyed demon god's hand. Soul Harvest. Chu Tian's figure was fast to the extreme, passing by the experts with innate spatial energy. The purple scythe passed through each person's body, but it didn't harm them at all. At least their bodies and minds weren't harmed at all. Chapter 589. The 10 experts weren't weak and they had spatial abilities. Normally, Chu Tian wouldn't have been able to easily take care of them, but they used all their energy to interfere with space and didn't leave any energy for themselves to escape. Even if they sensed danger approaching, they didn't have the ability to escape. These people never thought that in front of one of the peak experts of the Big Dry Empire, the Martial King, Chu Tian would have the ability to attack them. Chu Tian's move was very sudden. Soul attacks were different from spiritual attacks, energy attacks, and physical attacks. When the purple soul harvesting scythe was condensed, there were no energy fluctuations at all. When the soul harvesting scythe was chopped down, there was no sense of power at all. A cultivator's protective spirit energy couldn't block a soul attack. Chu Tian's scythe quickly slashed through the bodies of the 10 spatial experts. Although these spatial experts didn't have any injuries, their souls were completely absorbed by Chu Tian's source spirit. Innate spatial experts were very precious, so when Chu Tian absorbed their souls, his spatial energy increased. They were all killed. How precious were innate spatial experts? The Big Dry Empire had thousands of years of history and could find quite a few innate spatial experts, but it wasn't easy to raise them to this high level. They were definitely national treasures. Now that they had been taken care of in front of the Martial King, how could the Martial King be in a good mood? Bastard! Jing Wuying revealed a terrifying killing intent. With a so sound, the sword in his hands suddenly disappeared, shadowless sword array. The sword disappeared. The entire hall was covered in sword chi. It was like there were tens of thousands of invisible swords that were quickly flying around. The terrifying sword chi formed a giant sword array that sealed off the space. Everything in this sword array became Jing Wuying's prey. Chu Tian had become the most important prey. Your opponent is me, it's rude to be distracted like this. Lancelot revealed a gentle and elegant smile. While Jing Wuying released the sword array, his scepter stabbed into the ground and the tip pierced into the floor, causing a green light to spread in all directions. Wherever it went, the floor would shatter and countless green plants wildly sprayed out from the ground like a fountain. World of trees descend. The Elven King used a secret technique that could only be used by the Elven Kings: 10 meters, 100 meters, 1,000 meters, 10,000 meters. The area covered by the plants became wider and wider, covering Jing Wuying's sword array in a rough manner. If one looked at the Eagle Burial King city from the sky, they would be shocked to find that the majestic mammoth royal palace had suddenly exploded. Of course, what triggered the explosion wasn't flames or shockwaves, but thousands of towering trees, as well as countless vines, shrubs, and weeds. In less than 10 seconds, Lancelot appeared in the center of King City, in a forest full of natural and primitive scenery. The forest was not as simple as a forest. Every tree, every vine, every blade of grass actually contained energy. They were a part of this giant array. When this array was activated, they would wildly attack all the enemies that Lancelot had marked out. The Eagle Burial Kingdom's army came to help, but they were blocked by the tree array, so they had no chance of entering at all. Lancelot had borrowed the power of the Nature Scepter to unleash this attack. However, it could also be seen that Lancelot was very powerful. He possessed the innate talent of time, which was 1 in a billion. Additionally, he could perfectly display the power of the sacred artifact, the Nature Scepter. The only Elven King in history was Lancelot. The current #1 expert in the Forest of Chaos was Lancelot. Jing Wuying was attacked by countless vines and giant tree warriors. Even with his strength, it was hard for him to escape Lancelot's attacks in a short period of time. Lancelot casually dealt with the Big Dry Martial King like he was taking a stroll, while saying to the Dragon Lord not far away, "Nidhogg, are you still not done?" The Dragon Lord was very strong. Even if it was Alexis with a higher cultivation, wasn't he still easily defeated by the Dragon Lord? The Eagle Ruler's strength was not on the same level as Alexis. The Dragon Lord was shocked by Lancelot's methods. He never thought that the Elven King would be this strong, so he was a bit absent-minded. The Eagle Ruler found that he had made a mistake. The Big Dry Martial King could sit back and relax after inviting him. This fellow was looking down on the Forest Alliance's strength too much. The big dry martial king was around the same level as the spider queen Alexis. How could he suppress an expert of the Forest Alliance at this level? The eagle ruler realized that this matter was bad and immediately prepared to use an escape technique. If he let this fellow escape, where would the Dragon Lord put his face? Death Wing Domain. The Dragon Lord released a layer of black dragon flames that surrounded them like a cage. The eagle ruler turned into a blood-red light as he used his escape technique to escape, but he slammed into the black death dragon flames. He gave a pitiful cry as he spat out a mouthful of blood and was forced to stop. Dragon Flame Hell. The cage formed by the death dragon flames suddenly shrank. Like a strong glue, it stuck to the eagle ruler's body and the eagle ruler let out a pitiful cry. No! No! You can't kill this king. The Eagle Burial Kingdom has millions of soldiers. Once this king dies, there will be no peace. He was still being stubborn when he was about to die. The body wrapped in dragon flames suddenly turned into a pile of black ashes, leaving behind an intact head. This was because the Eagle Emperor's head still had some value. Jing Wuying revealed a look of shock when he saw this. He waved his sword to create a path in the tree world and instantly flew into the sky. He was like an arrow that flew into the sky, instantly disappearing without a sound. Want to run? The Dragon Lord spread his wings to chase. Forget it, Your Excellency Death Wing. Chu Tian stopped the Dragon Lord from chasing. It's easy for you to kill him, but our Forest Alliance hasn't reached the point where we need to fight the Big Dry Empire. The Dragon Lord nodded and immediately withdrew his power. This giant dragon that dominated the Forest of Chaos didn't have any temper in front of Chu Tian at all. If other people in Dragon City saw this, their jaws would fall to the ground in shock. Not only Death Wing, even Burst Claw, Thunder's Fury, and even the Elven King were very respectful to Chu Tian. This didn't mean that they were looking down on Chu Tian, but they could already see Chu Tian's future. Chu Tian would definitely be an important character on the continent in the future. If the four of them supported Chu Tian now, there would be countless benefits in the future. Lancelot asked Chu Tian for his opinion. What do we do now? The Eagle Ruler must die. This result was already decided when Chu Tian left, so it wasn't a temporary decision when he came to Mammoth Palace. This was because the Eagle Ruler was too notorious and it would be hard to unite the region if they didn't kill him, so they wouldn't be able to achieve Miracle City's goal. The Eagle Burial Kingdom can't be without a king, we need to support a new king. Lancelot agreed with Chu Tian's opinion. The Spirit Beast country has too many troops and the Eagle Burial Kingdom's army of 10 million is a very unstable factor. Who is suitable to sit on the throne? Chu Tian was a person who cared about efficiency. He directly brought the two of them to a place near the Blood Eagle army. The three of them entered the Blood Eagle King's tent and captured the Blood Eagle King on the same day. Chu Tian didn't waste words and directly threw two paths to the Blood Eagle King, letting the Blood Eagle King choose for himself. The first was to inherit the Eagle Ruler's position and obey the Forest Alliance's demands. Although they would lose a certain amount of freedom and expansion, the Eagle Burial Kingdom would benefit from Miracle Commerce's technology and prosper. The second was to die. There were several Eagle Kings left anyway, so Chu Tian would visit them one by one. If they didn't obey, he would kill them and then find the next one. He didn't believe that he couldn't find one that was willing to listen. This choice wasn't hard. The Eagle Burial Kingdom had no hope of dominating the continent. The Blood Eagle King didn't support the ambitions of the previous Eagle Ruler and it was because of this that he didn't get along with the Eagle Ruler. Now that the Eagle Ruler had been killed and the Eagle Burial Kingdom's expansion had failed, why would he resist to the end? There were benefits to giving up on resisting. Miracle City would build a shopping center, a logistics system, a communication system, and even a transport station in the Eagle Burial Kingdom in the future. The Eagle Burial Kingdom's territory, resources, and population weren't bad, so they had a chance to be reborn. The Blood Eagle King was directly sent to the Shaman Great Temple in the Savage Highlands. He had the shaman bishop of the Savage Highlands use witchcraft to leave a goo worm in the Blood Eagle King's body. This was just in case. Chu Tian sent the Blood Eagle King back to the Eagle Burial Kingdom. The Blood Eagle King used his prestige and reputation to finally settle the chaos in the Eagle Burial Kingdom, finally sitting on the throne of the new king. After the kingdom's crisis was resolved, Chu Tian returned to Miracle City. Meng Qinggu pointed at a giant map and said, "After the Eagle Burial Kingdom has surrendered, there are no longer any obstacles in the northern region. We will quickly restore the 14 countries destroyed by the Eagle Burial Kingdom, and I believe that within half a year, there will be several small kingdoms in the north. These small countries have received Miracle City's help since they were founded, even their armies and royal families were rebuilt by Miracle City." Feng Kaidai had just returned from touring the various countries, so she was the most clear on the situation of the countries. After these countries are rebuilt, the kings will be very respectful to Miracle City and the citizens will be grateful to Miracle Commerce. Our plan will be unobstructed. Great. Meng Yingying slapped the table and stood up. We have integrated so many countries together. In the future, communication will be unified, logistics warehouses will be built, and transmission towers will be built. That will be a super large market with a population of 10 billion. Even if the population of these countries didn't add up to 10 billion, it would still be around 8 billion. The Forest Alliance had many experts and few people, so the newly formed Kingdom Alliance could make up for this deficiency. A large population meant a large market, and Miracle Commerce could connect the resources of the various regions, allowing the entire region to prosper in a short period of time. Miracle City didn't occupy a single city or land. This kind of method could create a very stable rule. Speaking of the transport towers, we don't have enough resources right now. We can't even cover the Forest of Chaos, not to mention the northern countries. Chu Tian's eyes fell onto Vivian and Jean Luo sitting there. How is the outer space exploration plan going? Big brother can be assured, I'll definitely risk my life to complete the task you've given Vivian. Now our rocket is almost ready. Vivian was very happy when she heard this. She jumped up and heroically said, "We'll definitely be able to go into the sky this time and bring the stars back to Miracle City." Chapter 590. Jean Luo never thought that she would be participating in such a crazy plan before she came to Miracle City. When Meng Qinggu found her and Vivian and gave them the task, Jean Luo simply suspected that she was dreaming. They were actually going to build a flying machine to mine outer space. No, Jean Luo felt that even if she was dreaming, she wouldn't have this kind of imagination. After Vivian received the task, not only did she not raise any objections or feel disbelief, she even happily accepted it. In the next 20 days, the two princess beauties began to wildly work. Vivian first found her best friend, who was also the person in charge of Miracle Commerce's production and resources, Meng Yingying. With Meng Yingying's coordination, the work went much more smoothly. Just the Yun sect brought several hundred experienced scholars, and the Truman sect brought over 1,000 craftsmen from the giant mountain range. This mission that the people of the continent thought was impossible began like this. Actually, according to the information provided by Chu Tian, if they wanted to mine outer space, they needed to reach at least 50,000 kilometers. Miracle Commerce's airship could only reach 50,000 meters because after 100,000 meters, there was an astral wind layer. This astral wind was strong enough to blow a hole in steel. The resistance of the astral wind layer was very strong. It was like piercing through layers of steel. Not only was it a large test of the flying machine's strength, it also had high energy requirements. Without enough energy, it couldn't produce enough power, and without enough power, it couldn't pierce through the astral wind layer. Wanting to go to outer space was just wishful thinking. The difference between 50,000 meters and 50,000 kilometers was 1,000 times. If Miracle Commerce wanted to mine outer space, they needed to build a flying machine that could fly 50,000 kilometers, but this was not very possible. Miracle City's most advanced flying machine was the Black Thunder fighter, and the large battleships were still being developed. The Black Thunder fighter's body was only so, but the energy was too weak. it couldn't pierce through the astral wind layer. Therefore they needed to change it. Chu Tian gave Vivian a solution, which was to separate the propellers from the flying machine. Since the flying machine couldn't carry that much energy, they would just build a rocket filled with energy. They would first use the rocket to push the flying machine into outer space before abandoning the rocket. There wouldn't be any resistance in outer space. This was not difficult for Miracle Commerce. This was because Miracle Commerce had long since started researching missile weapons. A rocket was nothing more than a non-lethal missile that had been magnified a few hundred times. The entire rocket blueprint was modified according to the missile, and after thousands of craftsmen researched and built it day and night, as well as scholars engraved runes, this rocket was officially completed. It was almost time for the launch. Meng Qinggu felt that sending a rocket to outer space was a matter of face, as well as a magnificent feat for humanity and a large matter for the Forest Alliance. Therefore, she specially found several dozen reporters to record it from different angles and methods, broadcasting it to the Forest Alliance and the Kingdom Alliance. After a few days of warm-up, it was over. The official launch day had finally arrived. The entire Forest Alliance, including the Kingdom Alliance, there were at least 1 billion people paying attention to this matter. Whether it was the broadcast channels or the viewing channels, the number of people watching at the same time broke a record. Miracle City wanted to ascend to the heavens. How could this not be sensational and shocking? How could it not break records? Perhaps only the Forest Alliance could do this kind of thing on the continent. Meng Qinggu specially invited Feng Kaidai to be the anchor, explaining Miracle City's plan to ascend to the heavens. At the same time, she would use this chance to expand Miracle City and Miracle Commerce's influence in the Forest Kingdom and the continent. Not to mention Miracle City really wanting to ascend to the heavens, even if the entire plan was just a gimmick, it was enough to be a hot topic on the continent. In the future, Miracle Commerce's sales could even increase by 10 times. Vivian and Jean Luo were very excited. This was because the two of them were in charge of building the rocket, and the two of them were very honored to sit on the rocket ship, having the chance to be the first people to ascend to the heavens. If this attempt succeeded, the two of them would be able to leave their mark in the history books. Was this chance something normal people could imagine? The one most pleasantly surprised was naturally Jean Luo. She never thought that she would encounter this kind of thing at all. Actually, Jean Luo didn't understand anything and didn't help much in this period of time. She had been watching from the side with a shocked heart. It was really strange that she was invited to participate in the plan, and also strange that she was sitting on the ship preparing to ascend. The Forest Alliance's propaganda campaign was too big. Not only were over 1 billion people in the forest and kingdoms paying close attention, perhaps West Sea City was also paying attention to this matter. When she thought of the over 1 million mere people looking forward to this matter, she felt her blood boil. If she could really sit on Miracle City's rocket and ascend to the heavens, she would be treated like a hero when she returned to West Sea City. The mere people had lived in the sea for generations and had never gone to outer space since the birth of the race. Jean Luo was definitely the first. Vice City Lord Vivian has come out. Wah, Princess Vivian is too beautiful today. Around the rocket launch site, Miracle City citizens were already surrounding it. After all, this was a large matter. How could Miracle City's people not know about it? This was a large matter that Miracle City could be proud of. Several 100,000 citizens surrounded the area, and when they saw their hero Vivian appear, the crowd instantly boiled like an ocean. Who is that golden-haired beauty? How come I've never seen her before? Are you stupid? The news hasn't been like this for the past few days. Vivian and Jean Luo, the two beautiful princesses, are going to ascend together. Since Princess Vivian is on the side, that must be the beautiful and noble mermaid Princess Jean Luo. I'm just curious why mermaids can walk with their legs. Who told you that mermaids had to use their tails to walk? The Miracle City citizens kept arguing. The two princesses were definitely the highlight of this matter. There was no need to say anything about Vivian. She was one of Miracle City's city lords and the Eternal Forest's little princess, having power and a noble birth. She was different from Chu Tian's dragon head and tail and Meng Qingwu's high above. Although Vivian was the city lord, she always had an image of being close to the citizens, often attending various civil events. If Chu Tian was Miracle City's spiritual leader and Meng Qingwu was Miracle City's heart and brain, then City Lord Vivian was undoubtedly Miracle City's ambassador. She was very popular in Miracle City. Jean Luo was a new face, she didn't have a position and she had never appeared on the screen before, but the mermaid princess had a perfect figure and a noble temperament. This made her capture the hearts of countless people. The two top beauties were born noble, they were definitely the face of Miracle City. Vivian and Jean Luo placed a lot of importance on this mission, so they were dressed up beautifully. How was this an unknown dangerous mission? It was simply like they were preparing to walk the red carpet. Of course. Chu Tian wouldn't let the two of them be in danger, so he had prepared transport scrolls. If the rocket failed or something else happened, at least the two of them could be transported back. Feng Kaidai held the microphone as she walked in front of the two of them. You are about to step on the road to outer space. There are over 1 billion people watching the live broadcast right now. Do you have anything you want to say to everyone? After saying this, Feng Kaidai gave the microphone to Jean Luo. Ah! Jean Luo never thought it would be like this. Several reporters pointed their cameras at her, and when she thought of how her every word and expression would be broadcast to every corner of the forest, even to the human and spirit beast kingdoms, she instantly felt like she was walking on pins and needles. I. Vivian saw that Jean Luo couldn't say anything for a long time, so she immediately took the microphone and proudly stuck out her chest. She was someone who had seen the world now, so she didn't have stage fright in front of this situation. She immediately said, "First, I want to thank my most respected, worshipped, and favorite big brother Chu Tian. It was him who made all of this possible, and it was him who created Miracle Commerce. Next, I want to thank the intelligent and capable big sister Meng Qingwu for giving me this chance, as well as my best friend Meng Yingying for helping me create the rocket. If it wasn't for you, there wouldn't be the glory that big sister Jean Luo and I have today. Miracle Commerce is a great company and the Forest Alliance is also a great." Vivian spoke for several minutes, praising Miracle Commerce and the Forest Alliance to the skies. She also mentioned the Miracle Shopping Center, the Elven Bank, and etc. This could be considered a few advertisement placements. There were over 1 billion people paying attention, and it would be even more widespread in the future. The effect of this advertisement was very strong. When the Elven City Lord and the elves heard Vivian mention the Elven Bank and even mentioned the most important companies of the Elven race, their faces lit up with joy. They all praised Lancelot for having a good daughter. These seemingly casual words were filled with endless contributions to the Elven race. Feng Kaidai felt that Vivian spoke too much. She gave Vivian a look and Vivian immediately understood. "This is all I want to say, thank you." City Lord Vivian's speech was too great. Everyone applauded. Feng Kaidai took back the microphone and said to the camera, "It is time to launch, let us witness this historic moment together." Vivian led Jean Luo into the control cabin of the airship. This control cabin wasn't much different from the Black Thunder fighter, and the airship itself was just a special version of the Black Thunder fighter. There wasn't much difference in the overall structure. The cabin door closed. Smart Brain examined the rocket and didn't find any problems. "The rocket will ignite in 10 seconds, everyone start the countdown with me." Feng Kaidai was a bit excited as she looked at the launch pad in the valley. 10, 9, 8. 3, 2, 1. The rocket was 50 meters tall and it was completely black. It was covered in runes and the words Miracle Commerce were written on it. When the countdown reached the end, there was an explosion coming from the bottom of the rocket and a large amount of light blue flames shot out. The rocket was pushed by a large force and it quickly flew into the sky. Instantly, inside and outside the valley, the entire forest, and the various cities of the kingdom all cheered. Chapter 591. Miracle City's rocket was 40 meters tall and weighed around 60 tons. It was basically automatically controlled by the smart brain, and several energy sources filled it at the same time, instantly creating a powerful speed that could easily push the rocket several 100,000 meters into the air. The air several 100,000 meters in the air was already so thin that it was almost negligible. The rocket rose faster and faster, gradually encountering the interference of the astral wind. The astral wind in the deep space was not true wind. It was actually a kind of rampaging energy flow. This kind of strong energy flow was enough to create a strong tearing force and resistance. This was also the main reason why normal flying machines and living beings couldn't enter deep space. Miracle City's rocket was specially designed for this kind of environment. Not only did it have enough energy, the rocket itself was also engraved with large amounts of energy-resisting runes and arrays. The rocket's smart brain automatically analyzed the surrounding situation, and it began to activate the source energy arrays on the rocket. These source energy arrays not only strengthened the rocket itself, it also reduced the damage from the astral wind, ensuring that the rocket could safely ascend into the air. Meng Yingying's voice came from the communication device. "Vivian, Jean Luo, how are you right now?" Vivian and Jean Luo's cultivations weren't weak, with Vivian already reaching the peak 7th true spirit layer. Jean Luo was someone that City Lord Bo Sha crazily trained for several decades. She was already a peak 1st heaven domain layer expert. Although the rocket was getting faster and faster and the pressure it created surpassed the limits of mortals, the two of them didn't feel uncomfortable at all. Vivian quickly picked up the communication device and said, "Relax, it's good. We're in a very, very high place now. I can see the entire forest of chaos. This is truly incredible." In Miracle City, Meng Qinggu took the communication device and said to the two of them, "You'll enter outer space, our communication will be cut off. Be careful, you can't be careless." "Yes." Vivian quickly said, "We'll definitely succeed." It was just like what Meng Qinggu said. Although Miracle City's communication device could cover a large area, the rocket's destination was 50,000 kilometers in the air, which already exceeded the range of the Heaven's Net airships. As the rocket went deeper, the communication device became more and more blurry before finally completely disappearing. "We're now 20,000 kilometers from the ground," Vivian said in a very proud voice. "After tens of thousands of years, I will definitely be the highest elf." Jean Luo said with a smile, "Then I will definitely be the highest mermaid in history." The two of them looked through the porthole. Most of the continent's landscape appeared before their eyes. It was colorful and complicated. Some places had mountain ranges that stretched for thousands of miles, some were covered in green forests, some had thousands of volcanoes, and some had endless deserts. It was an eye-opener for the two of them. The rocket trembled more and more violently. It was like thousands of hammers and saws were working around the rocket at the same time, making people worry if the rocket could withstand it, but Vivian wasn't worried at all. On one hand, she had absolute confidence in Miracle City's products, and on the other hand, she still had a transport scroll in her pocket. Even if the rocket ship exploded, there was still a chance to teleport back. Everything went smoother than expected. Vivian and Jean Luo sat in the cockpit, and with the help of the AI, they did their best to control the rocket. The rocket was abandoned in deep space after it ran out of fuel, and the two of them piloted the ship to continue their journey. Jean Luo was filled with excitement and novelty. They were already in outer space. What do we do now? Vivian took out the mission plan and said after looking over it, "We've already reached 50,000 kilometers in the air. There's no air or gravity outside, so there won't be any dangerous astral winds. Our mission is to find outer space or deposits and find a suitable place to fix the aircraft." Jean Luo knit her brows. "How do we find outer space or deposits?" Vivian revealed a smile. "Can't you see? It's everywhere." Vivian turned on the aircraft's panoramic view and the appearance of outer space appeared without any reservation. Outer space was not completely black, it had a background of a beautiful purple, white, and blue gem. Why would there be this kind of scene? This had a lot to do with the plane structure of the continent. Since the birth of the continent, the negative energy that represented death and darkness settled at the bottom of the continent. The positive energy like light and lightning gathered at the top of the plane. As for the neutral elements like wind, fire, water, and earth, they gathered in the middle to form a world. At the top of the plane's thin film, large amounts of light and lightning elements flowed, which was why it looked so dazzling. Because the thin film was not flat but curved, the thin film of time and space could absorb energy. Large amounts of lightning and light would gather at the most curved position, finally forming an incomparably large body of light. It was like a ball that kept rolling on the thin film, changing periodically, which formed the difference between day and night. The continent saw the sun, that was all. What were the stars? Jean Luo thought that the stars were definitely huge meteorites, but when she arrived in outer space, she realized that the stars people looked up to were actually formed by huge energy whirlpools. These energy whirlpools were formed by a kind of non-attribute pure energy. In the center was a very high-density energy condensed body. After countless years, the pure energy would be compressed into matter and this matter would be ejected from the whirlpool, finally forming pieces of glowing star stones around the whirlpool. Outer space was filled with whirlpools like this. Each whirlpool was surrounded by countless star stones. Each piece of star stone was an important outer space resource that Miracle Commerce was preparing to mine. The refined star crystals could be used for cultivation and the refined star iron, star copper, and star gold were very important materials. Not only could they be used to strengthen equipment and research, they were also the main materials for future spaceships. A portion of the star's stones could condense eyes of the star. The eyes of the star contained the spatial laws and could be used to mark space. It was an important material for transport towers and space gates. The sky was filled with star whirlpools. They had never been mined since ancient times. Miracle Commerce couldn't finish mining them in 1,000 years even if they mined them on a large scale. Jean Luo felt that being able to see the beautiful and mysterious outer space, her trip to this world was not in vain. There doesn't seem to be a place to land near the star whirlpool. Relax, Big Brother Chu Tian has already planned this. Vivian opened the plan book and read it a few times. We'll build a base on the moon. Moon? Vivian didn't understand, but her big brother was right. She piloted the ship in a certain direction and a giant floating object appeared in front of them before long. It looked like an incomparably large silver-white jade plate, but it was actually perfectly round. This world's moon was a mass of energy, with 90% of it being made of liquid energy, but there were a few continents on it. Wow, it's too beautiful. Vivian slowly approached the moon and found that the continents on it were all made of pure jade. There was no soil, plants, or other miscellaneous materials. Alright, let's land. Vivian carefully landed on the surface of the moon. This flying machine had been specially designed and when it landed on the moon, it would absorb the ground to stabilize itself. It's done. We've landed safely. Vivian happily clapped her hands. This flying machine has a transport tower. We'll send a message through the space warehouse to everyone and Miracle City can directly send people here through the transport tower. Jean Luo never thought that everything would go this smoothly. Then what are we waiting for? Immediately inform Miracle City. This mission had already been completed. When Vivian and Jean Luo thought this, the smart brain in the flying machine suddenly released a sound, warning. There are unknown life forms near the flying machine with high energy levels, prepare yourselves. The two of them looked at each other in shock. How could there be life forms in this kind of place? Jean Luo was anxious. They had finally completed this mission and if they were attacked by these life forms, the flying machine would be destroyed. This mission would have no meaning at all. There was a complete vacuum outside. With Jean Luo's first heavenly domain layer cultivation, she could survive in a vacuum for a long time. From the information given by the smart brain, the life forms that were attracted over were not few at all. The equipment room has Miracle City's specially developed mecha armor. We can go outside after putting on this mecha armor. Miracle City will send people here soon, so we'll go first. Alright. The two of them took off their clothes and went to the equipment room to change into a set of strangely shaped armor. This set of armor was completely enclosed, and their whole body was like a can. There was a layer of crystal mask on it, so it wouldn't affect one's vision. Other than that, this set of equipment had built-in weapons and power, allowing people who couldn't fly to easily soar into the sky. Let's go. When the two of them left the cabin, the flying machine was surrounded by strange life forms. These life forms looked a bit like insects, 50 to 60% similar to mantises, especially their two giant blades. Their bodies seemed to be made of transparent jade and they could clearly see the liquid energy flowing inside. The life forms here were very different from the life forms on the continent. These were definitely not normal life forms or elemental life forms. They lived by absorbing the moon's energy and even their bodies were made of moon crystals. This was a kind of life form formed in the natural environment. They're coming. Careful, protect the flying machine. Countless monsters attacked. Angry spiritual wave. Jean Luo released a powerful spiritual energy that instantly suppressed the surrounding monsters. Then she put her hands together, blue water domain. Suddenly, waves of energy were summoned, protecting the entire aircraft within it. Vivian looked at Jean Luo with a bit of surprise. She never thought that Jean Luo would have twin source spirits, therefore she had both the water and spiritual attributes. This could be said to be very rare. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.